Testing. Good morning, everyone. Buenos días a todos. Thank you for coming today. We really appreciate it. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors. Gracias a todos por haber venido. This is our first event of Ag Vision, the first of many to come. Agriculture is very important in our community. I grew up here. My parents took me out to the field so I could know what it was to actually be out there. So it is a very important part of our community. And I would like to ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I would like to pass it on to George Tudor from Growing Coachella Valley.
Thank you, Council Member Perez. Hello? Okay, perfect. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for attending today. We are very excited to be a part of the 2025 Ag Vision, and we'd very much like to thank the City of Coachella for hosting this, as well as all of our sponsors. I'd like to welcome all the dignitaries that we have in the room today. Some of them will be speaking, but others will not. With us today, we have Assemblymember Jeff Gonzalez. Jeff. We have Council Member from the City of Coachella, Stephanie Verhan. Yadira Perez, who just welcomed everybody, Council Member, City of Coachella. We have Dr. Frank Figueroa, also Council Member from the City of Coachella. We have Peter Nelson, Board Member, Coachella Valley Water District. Casilo Estrada, also a Board Member from the Coachella Valley Water District. And Frank Ruiz from Congressman Ruiz's office. Again, I'd like to just say we're very excited to be co-hosting this today with the City of Coachella. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Supervisor Perez, I didn't see you walk in there. We also have our Riverside County Supervisor, Supervisor Manny Perez here in the office, in the room today too. Okay, yeah. This used to be an event called the Ag Summit, but it hasn't been held since 2004, almost 21 years ago. So again, like I said, we're really excited to bring this back to the city. It is wonderful to be here in the city of Coachella this morning to celebrate and discuss agriculture. Commercial agriculture began in the Coachella Valley 125 years ago when settlers started to drill wells in order to grow dates, grapes, citrus, and vegetables. Upon completion of the Coachella Canal after World War II, along with an increase in mechanization, the Coachella Valley experienced an agricultural explosion that continues to this day. In fact, agriculture is estimated to contribute close to $1 billion annually to the valley's economy, and it directly supports 12,000 jobs. Numbers as impressive as those would suggest a thriving, robust industry. However, like all industries, agriculture faces many challenges as well as many opportunities. Today, we will discuss those challenges and opportunities, and hopefully you, our audience, will leave knowing how you can play a part in maintaining a healthy, productive agricultural industry in our valley. And with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Jeff Gonzalez, Assemblymember Gonzalez.
Well, Janelle said I had 5 minutes, so I don't know if that means 20 or 2. Jeff Percy, you're going to have to coach me and give me the hand signals, right? Jeff Gonzalez, I am your assembly member for the 36th Assembly District. I represent all of Imperial County, Eastern Riverside County, Southwest Riverside County, and all the way up to Needles. The district is a little bit larger than New Hampshire, so it's big. But we represent a vast district, a diverse district, and we represent agriculture. I like to say that we are the hottest growers in the area, and I mean that by our temperature. So that being said, it's an honor to be here with you today and to kick off this new era of advocacy that we have here. With the help, and I say this, my focus is solely on what goes on in this district, period. There's no distraction, there's no light. It's what happens here. So when it impacts you, it impacts me, and my job is to go advocate for you. That being said, this new era of advocacy is a partnership not only with the state, myself, with agencies and organizations, and it's a direct relationship with all of you, to include our supervisor, Manny Perez. We're in constant communication to make sure that not only what happens in our region, I can support it through state endeavors, through state challenges. Literally, he was up there, we talked, and we came together and we said, what's most important for us is right here, and it's you, all of you. So know that we are lockstep in supporting you. Know that Growing Coachella Valley, Riverside County Farm Bureau, Ellen Way, all of you, Water District, you have direct access to me and my team so that we can support you. And if you don't have my phone number, you should have it because I give it out very freely. And my job, again, is to fight for you and advocate for you. So again, thank you for coming. Thank you for putting Ag Vision 2025 together. And I look forward to a great day of connecting, networking, and learning about what your needs are at the state level and how I can help you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I also wanted to mention that as far as ag, Jeff also is on the Assembly Ag Committee in Sacramento, and the Colorado River Forum. He's appointed to that. Obviously, very important issues for our valley, the state, the Southwest. Next up to speak, we have Supervisor Manny Perez. Supervisor Perez.
So this morning I couldn't find my belt. So George, thank you, George, for the invitation. Thank you for having me here. Ellen as well. Thank you so much, Janelle. We've had a pretty good relationship. It's getting much, much stronger, and I really appreciate it. One of the first things I did when I became a supervisor was actually tour some of the fields because of the ag theft that was going on back then. And it's still going on today. But thank you for having me here today, as well as all the farmers, the growers that are here, farm workers that are here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me as well. I really appreciate your work. It's hard work. I think about it every day. You know, born and raised here in the Valley, it's part of who we are. It's part of who I am as well. One of the first things when I became a supervisor that I was asked to do was think of us, Supervisor. Think about the ag community. Anytime you can, please bring us up. You know, whenever you speak, whenever you have an event, if you think there's an opportunity, please have us there. And rightly so. And I took that to heart. I heard that from Janelle some time ago, and most recently from Ellen. And I'd like to say that Ellen's been outstanding. How many events have we had already together, and you've actually spoken already? How many of them? Give her a round of applause, please. How many, Ellen? How many? At least 2 or 3? 3, right? and there's more to come. And I think that's one way. And then anytime I can in Riverside bring up ag, it's important. I do my best. So I look at the agenda, and the agenda is awesome. And I'm looking forward to sticking around and learning from all of you. But I will say that, when it comes to advocacy, I really appreciate what Assemblymember Gonzalez just mentioned. He's right. And he's not lying, I'm not lying, folks, with a straight face. We talk quite a bit. Honestly, more so now than I've ever had conversations in the past when I was in the state legislature. And I appreciate that. I think our relationships have gone a long way, in spite of the fact who has a D and who has an R. And that goes with Assemblymember Wallace as well. I wish I had the same relationship with my own colleagues in the Democratic Party, to be honest with you. I'm not lying about that either. And I'm not going to switch parties either. But it'll come, I think, one day. Because there are others that obviously do reach out. And we try to make things happen. So I have talking points I haven't even got into yet, but I'm not going to get into them, just because I'll keep you here for a while. But I also just want to thank Marguerite Chiriaco. I'm not sure she's here. Hey, Marguerite, come on. I love Marguerite. And I'm sure she's going to call me later on today. That's right. That's right. I already know. Mark Tadros. That guy actually came to visit me early on, right away, and our relationship just grew. And it's an awesome relationship today. Let me see here. Who else do I got here? Keck? Where are the stop signs at? Where are my stop signs? Albert's been on my case for a while. I'm assuming on everyone else's case as well. Now we got a four-way stop.
There's no more backup.
I know. It's awesome. I actually drove by there a couple times now.
Thank you.
So thank you for your advocacy. Look, there's a lot of people to thank. Castelo, I saw you. How you doing, bud? I only see him at these type of events. I don't see him no more to give him a hug. I only got 30 seconds left, so. Folks, welcome to the city of Coachella, where my heart is, where my soul is, where I grew up, where I used to ride my bike around here, when I used to come to the panaderia down the street, or actually right here in this corner, my grandmother, my primos, right? Bobby Duke. Our new park is awesome. Go check it out. It's like a museum for veterans. Please, go take a look. You'll love it. Hey, Bob, I'm glad you're back. Take care, folks. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Perez. We have another dignitary that has joined us today. We have Mayor Pro Tem City of Coachella, Denise Delgado, who's going to come up and say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the City of Coachella. And welcome to our first Ag Vision, State of the Agriculture, brought to you by the City of Coachella and Growing Coachella Valley, a nonprofit organization of our local farmers. Agriculture in the City of Coachella provides the largest workforce. We are dependent on agriculture and are supportive and thankful to our local farmers for providing this type of workforce. At one time or another, each one of us, I think, electeds in the East Valley either have had our parents work in the field, our friends work in the fields, family members work in the fields. Currently, I have an aunt who is a foreman out in Bakersfield, and then I have an aunt who's a subcontractor and provides the workforce. It's also our largest and strongest driver in the City of Coachella. And I know Mr. Tudor already brought mentioned about the billion-dollar industry, but I'll just point it out once again. In Riverside County, the industry was $1.5 billion. In the Coachella Valley, it was $648 million. That's half. That's half of what the Riverside County brings. And Riverside County is the fourth largest district in California, and that says a lot when the Coachella Valley alone brings in half of 1.5 billion. However, there are a lot of challenges that our local farmers are facing, whether it be theft, whether it be support in legislation, whether it's heavier or stricter regulations than our neighboring countries. Today, we're going to be receiving an update, an education, information about how better to support and partner and collaborate with our local farmers. I do want to thank, I know some of our dignitaries were highlighted, but I want to also give a thank you to our sponsors, Temalpac Farm, Greater Palm Springs Economic Development, Growing Coachella Valley, Desert Healthcare District Foundation, Cheralco Summit, Blue Zone Projects, Harvest Partners sponsors is Peter Rabbit Farms, American Ag Credit, Unite DAG, Hadley Date Gardens, Coachella Valley Resource Conservation District, Western Growers, Ocean Mist, and Bagdasarian. I'm going to try my best, guys. I tried my best on that one. I also want to thank 4-H Club. It's a youth-developed program of Coachella Valley High School students who assembled our Gardens to Go. And I also want to give a very special thank you to Janelle Percy, to Selena Jimenez, and Reseth for putting this together. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of commitment. You know, there was weekly meetings. If you notice, even down to all the details and the logo, these ladies created that all from the start, and we know that this is just going to build the foundation to be able to grow and build on it as we continue to build our partnership and strengthen it. I want to give a big, big thank you to Oscar Ventura, the owner of El Tranvía, and his staff. They're the ones who provided our breakfast, so if we can give them a round of applause. Yesterday in the evening, I stopped by, and Oscar, you know, we kept giving him more and more numbers. We kept increasing the numbers, and I said, "Hey, you know, I'm sorry. You know, are you gonna be okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I can take care of it. We do up to 500." I'm like, "Okay, good. Then we have a lot of numbers that we have to keep making up for as we continue." I want to give a special thank you to my parents, Lupe Acosta and Carlos Delgado. My mother was a foreman under Lionel Steinberg. Let me skip to my dad. This is my father, Carlos Delgado. He worked at Coachella Valley Water District for 34 years as a zanjero, and he also retired. He did the reports for the crops. And I also then want to acknowledge my mother. She worked for Lionel Steinberg, Freeman Grapes, who passed in 1999. I regret not reaching out to Billy Steinberg. I would have liked to see him here, and I'm sure he would have enjoyed being with us as well. Once we're done here, I hope that you make your way over to the library. Billy Steinberg did donate the Hidden Harvest mural, along with historical photos. So when we're done here, please make your way over there so that we can appreciate the history and some of these photos of our agriculture workers' history from decades ago. Once again, thank you, and thank you for being here in the city of Coachella with us. We're truly grateful for it.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem Delgado. Next on our list, we have Lee Frankel. Lee is the farm business manager for Temalpac Farms. He's with the Augustine Band of Cahuilla Indians.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Delgado, Assemblymember Gonzalez, and Supervisor Perez for your presentations. My name is Lee Frankel, and I'm the Farm Business Manager for Temopac Farm. We are proud to be a sponsor for today's event. The farm is owned and operated by the Augustine Band of Cahuilla Indians on tribal land, with our farm a half-mile south of the Augustine Casino, which is located 54th and Van Buren. Temopac Farm was named after the Cahuilla word Temopac, meaning from the earth. Our name reflects our values and culture, and we strive to build a legacy for both through our practices and the community we create. Tribal leader Marianne Martin, who led efforts to guide the tribe toward a sustainable future, wanted to start an organic farm to nourish the tribe and the surrounding community and to create a space for residents to gather. Our farm today carries out her legacy and her vision. We offer farm tours to educate the community, and participants range from school-aged children on field trips, members of HOAs looking for activities, and others looking to learn more about our Augustine Band history and agricultural production. Today, too many consumers think that fresh fruits and vegetables just come from the grocery store. Our tours and farm help educate the community on what farmers do. We explain the process of building soil health, growing and caring for the plants, and the harvesting, packing, and marketing of our dates, vegetables, and melons. These tours help humanize the industry that generates that $1 billion of economic impact for the Coachella Valley. We have also developed a community gathering space for events and can provide catering services and farm-to-table experiences. We have an education center to teach about the tribe, soil, health, and food production, and to host industry meetings. So please feel free to come by and visit our space as you plan your next event. In addition, our farm store is currently open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. We feature the produce grown on our farm, supplemented with other organic produce to provide a more complete year-round offering. We also feature other products made primarily by Native-owned businesses. Next slide. I do want to highlight some programs targeted more for small farms like ourselves that help us transition to be a more professional and economically viable operation. At the federal level, the USDA Local Food Purchase Assistance Programs has provided funding for food banks and other feeding programs in other tribes to purchase directly from our farm. This program not only allows more fresh produce to be available to the neediest populations, but it also incorporates locally, culturally appropriate foods like chili peppers, cilantro, and tomatoes that otherwise wouldn't make it through some of the other USDA purchasing programs. This program gave us the financial certainty in markets to plant additional summer harvest crops that kept our workforce fully employed throughout the summer when layoffs are typical in the industry. We must find a way to rebrand the program so it becomes a permanent part of USDA policy, and it's funded during that Farm Bill Part 2 process. At the state level, the on-farm infrastructure programs have helped to fund our post-harvest cooling facilities that otherwise would have been out of reach for many years. Those facilities give us the shelf life and quality to compete in the regular market. At the local level, we appreciate the support of local school districts in prioritizing a portion of their purchases for local growers and the efforts of the City of Coachella working with the Blue Zone projects. We again thank the City of Coachella, Growing California, and the attendees at today's events. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee. Next up to present, we have Chris Blake, who is the Deputy Agricultural Commissioner for Riverside County. He'll be giving us an update on laws and regulations in the county.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Chris Blake, and I have the honor of serving as your Deputy Commissioner with Riverside County's Agricultural Commissioner's Office. It is a pleasure to join you here at the Coachella Valley Library and for this Ag Vision meeting, which is, I understand, the first one in quite a while, so I'm very excited for this opportunity. This morning, I'd like to provide a brief but comprehensive update on key activities and developments from our office, as well as from the California Department of Pesticide Regulation, as well as the California Department of Food and Agriculture. From regulatory updates to pest management efforts and community outreach, there's a lot happening across the county and the state that impacts our agricultural industry. First, a quick update on pesticide disposal events. We're coordinating a disposal event for unwanted pesticides, so if you or anyone you know would like to dispose of those materials, we actually have a form you can fill out on our website, or you can actually go right into our Indio office, speak with our supervisor, Stephen Triplett, and we can get you guys set up because we want to have a lot of engagement there. Next, our public outreach efforts are continuing to grow. This has been a big point of emphasis for our Commissioner Delia Choke. The Riverside County Agricultural Commissioner's Office will be setting up booths at several of the certified farmers markets throughout the county, and our goal is to educate residents about local agriculture, to highlight the CAC's role in maintaining a safe and healthy food supply. If you see us out there, make sure you stop by and say hello. I'd also like to take this time for a reminder that the pest control business registrations are due. We opened up registrations October 20th. For 2025, feel free to reach out and schedule your renewals early. It gets very busy towards the end of the year, and especially the very beginning of the year when people are trying to purchase their pesticides. So make sure the earlier the better. Finally, for our department updates, we will soon be publishing our 2024 crop report and working with Eric Besseril to complete an agricultural economic impact report. We look forward to seeing by the numbers just how valuable, unique, and impactful agriculture is here in Riverside County. Moving on to DPR, there have been several important developments this year. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Spray Days. Spray Days California, the statewide pesticide application notification system, officially went live in March of 2025, following the approval of the Office of Administrative Law in December of 2024. And these regulations were initially proposed in November of 2023. And we're now seeing full statewide implementation. There's some new features within the Spray Day system. Map-based sign-up now allows users to subscribe to notifications by selecting a 1 square mile on the map. Maps now highlight where pesticide applications have occurred in the last 4 days, giving users access to current information. We also want to welcome Amber Morris, who became DPR's new County Agricultural Commissioner Liaison, effective July 1st. We also like to thank previous liaison Joe Morardi for his many years of public service. Here's a look at what's happening in the local pesticide use enforcement so far. Riverside County proudly does quite a few inspections, the most in the state, in fact. We have not just inspections, but 30 outreach events with over 1,100 participants. That's not including the Date Festival, which we always attend. We include, in these events is included 30 outreach events, which include CAPCA presentations in Blythe, testing events in the Small Wine Growers Association in the Temecula Valley, compliance assistance visits with growers right here in the Coachella Valley, and educational workshops such as grape and citrus days, as well as community presentations at schools and homeowner associations right here in the Coachella Valley. On the inspection side, again, we've done 3,312 inspections this year to date. We've documented 334 violations, which I know may sound like a lot, but that's actually down from 428 last year, which improves our compliance rate from 83% to 90% over the year. The most common violations we've seen involve pest control business registrations, labeling, which is going to be a statewide violation. We're pretty much across the board, labeling is always at the top of the list, and then service container labeling as well. Additionally, we're tracking our 4 pesticide residue tolerance cases within Riverside County. And I think that's all I have for DPR updates. For CDFA updates, we have had 14 new positive HLB citrus trees detected in Corona, Riverside, and Norco, with 55 trees pending removal. Recently, a CLAS positive Asian citrus psyllid was found in the La Cresta area of Murrieta, which expanded that zone quite a bit. Luckily, it's not going to affect too many commercial citrus growers, and so far, no growers here in the Coachella Valley. Now, everyone's favorite topic, exotic fruit flies. There was 1 male peach fruit fly found in Corona. We also had 7 male fruit flies found near the Ontario airport, which did create a small quarantine around that airport. Again, the lessons that we learned from 23 and 24 were vast, and it's a much smaller quarantine, nothing like that we dealt with in 23 and 24. And luckily, those mat treatments, those male attracting techniques, have really seemed to solve the problem. We haven't had any future positive finds, which bodes well for that quarantine not expanding. So moving on to other pests of concern, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of the spotted lanternfly. They have found it in 17 states on the East Coast. White fly has been there, no live finds yet. 7 dead flies have been intercepted on airplanes this year, and egg masses have been found at several border stations. Again, no live finds here in California, thankfully. The South American palm weevil continues to spread northward. Riverside County is collaborating with UC A&R and neighboring counties to secure grant funding for detection and research. San Diego and Orange counties have both reported recent detections. On a positive note, the sterile medfly rearing facility in Los Alamitos has been upgraded. All 7 trailers are being replaced. 3 have already been replaced, with 4 more to go this year. And finally, as we look ahead, Riverside County remains committed to supporting a vibrant, resilient, and innovative agricultural community. From the day growers of the Coachella Valley, to the citrus orchards of the Western County, to the wine growers in the South, and everyone in between, your work sustains not only our local economy, but also the legacy of agriculture that defines who we are. Our office is proud to stand beside you, listening, collaborating, and finding practical solutions to the challenges you face. Together, we can continue to build an agricultural future rooted in stewardship, adaptation, and opportunity. Thank you for your partnership and your perseverance, and for keeping Riverside County agricultural strong. Thank you.
I'd just like to mention something that us growers in the valley in California often like to say, that we consider the food we grow the safest food grown anywhere in the world, and one of the reasons is because our relationship with the Ag Commissioner's office. I know our business, we're in there all the time talking to him. As he mentioned, I believe this county for the last couple of years has had more inspections than any other county in the state. So they're after us, but that's a good thing. We need the help. I think some people talk about regulations later in the day. There are so many coming at us so fast from different angles that we need good people like Stephen Triplett and his office here in Indio that help us out and let us know what needs to be done. So thank you. Up next, we have, speaking from the California Farm Bureau, Alexandra Beering? Beering, yeah, Director Policy Advocate for California Farm Bureau.
Thanks. Good morning. First, I'd like to thank Janelle and AgVision for inviting California Farm Bureau to participate. My name is Alex Beering. I am a director, as George said, I'm a director of policy advocacy. I focus on water issues. So you have the water person here today, but I promised Janelle I would not just talk about water, so I'm going to try and be a little bit broader in my remarks. I know that our president, Shannon Douglas, would have liked to have been here. She had a conflict, so she asked me to come. And I bring her up for a couple of reasons. Shannon is our president. She's been our president for 2 years now at California Farm Bureau. She's our first female president in the more than 100-year history of California Farm Bureau, which I think is notable and actually speaks to a diversity in agriculture that has always existed, but hasn't always been very visible. And so I always like to talk about that, and some of my colleagues are like, why do you always keep bringing up that she's a woman? And I'm like, because that actually matters. This is important for people, right? So Janelle asked me to speak a little bit from a statewide perspective about like the ag industry, sort of where things are going with certain pressures. I may touch on a few of the areas that folks may speak about later related to labor or other regulations, although again, those are not my specialties, so I'll do my best to channel my colleagues. I'll rattle off a couple of statistics that all of you already know. California ag is a $60 billion industry. 9 of the country's top 10 ag counties are in California. We supply, as you know, more than half of the nation's fruit, vegetables, and nuts. One of my growers who's down in Imperial yesterday said, you know, he always likes to repeat that the 2% feeds the other 98%. These are all things we know and we're obviously really proud of. Sometimes I don't like some of those statistics because I think they actually undercount the true value, because you're just looking at that 60 billion is just farm gate value, right? So we're not talking about creating buffers and functioning ecosystems and habitat and all these other things that agricultural production really does help provide. But obviously, this is an industry that's changing, maybe not externally, but internally, especially because of regulatory pressures. I don't know if any of you guys saw this study that came out this year, maybe it was maybe a month ago or so. It was a Cal Poly study that looked at the regulatory impacts for lettuce growers in the Salinas Valley, and it found that for commercial scale lettuce grower in Salinas, the regulatory costs grew 1,366% from 2006 to 2024. It was 1.24% of the production costs in 2006, 8.9 in 2017, 12.6 in 2024, and the per acre regulatory costs increased from $109 in 2006 to $1,600 in 2024. Now, the consumer doesn't know that, right? Because they don't feel any of those pressures when they go to buy food, because farmers are really, really good at absorbing those costs. I think that is going to be less true, particularly as we're talking about some of the pressures on the water side in the future. But all of this is really driving a consolidation in the industry that all of you guys have probably been observing as well. In 1950, the average farm size in California was 260 acres. Today, it's 351, and it's just been steadily going up and up and up. So I think at the state level, we've seen a few pushes to kind of get a handle on how do we make it easier for people to produce in a way that doesn't affect, doesn't push everybody out who's small. So we've seen, I deal with that a lot when it comes to different task forces that are out there, and I could name a couple of them, but I'm not gonna go into all of that right now. On the labor side, California Farm Bureau had a bill last year that was an ag overtime tax credit. So everybody knows that the push, I think it came from a well-intentioned place, ag overtime did, but it's really actually had negative impacts for a lot of farm employees. And so we authored a bill that would have been an ag overtime tax credit that would have allowed employers to take a tax credit on the back end for the overtime they paid. So incentivizing them to hire more people and pay them more overtime. That died, but I believe we're bringing it back. So we're gonna keep pushing on that. How much time do you say I have left? I look at 1 minute. Oh, God. I thought I had like 10 minutes, man. Okay. On the water side, I have to talk about water because I know Peter's here and Patrick's here, and there are people that can talk about this as well as I can or better. But water is going to continue to be a major pressure in California, particularly in areas where there are SGMA basins, Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. In the San Joaquin Valley, that is a huge driving force of what's actually shaping ag production and rural communities. Here, I know it's an issue as well. Groundwater adjudication is another hot topic that is going to be a big deal in 2026 in the legislature and in Sacramento. So these are things that are always going to be a pressure point, particularly in a place like Coachella where you do have a really diverse blend of water sources. But at any rate, I'm not going to go through more of these points because I don't have time. But I appreciate being invited. I am happy to talk about water or labor or insurance or anything else that people want to talk to. We're pushing on multiple fronts at the state level and would be happy to have anyone's help or assistance or input as we move forward and try and push on some of those critical issues that will help preserve California agriculture and make it possible for small producers to stay in business alongside the big ones. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Alexandra. I just want to also mention one thing. We will have an opportunity for questions at the end of the event after everybody's spoken. Thank you. Next up, we have the president of Riverside County Farm Bureau, Supervisor Perez mentioned her name earlier. She is involved in all things agriculture in this valley, that's for sure. Ellen Way.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to take this off because I'm short. I want to thank you all for being here this morning. I just want to say thank you for caring about agriculture. I know many of you work in agriculture, but I appreciate all of you who are here who care about your food supply, care about the future of ag in the Coachella Valley, because it is important. I want to thank Janelle for inviting me to be here today and for putting together this wonderful event with the city. And I also want to give a shout out to all of our sheriffs in the back. That's our ag task force back there. They try to keep ag safe and try to catch those folks who take some of our supplies sometimes. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen back there. My purpose today, and I'm really excited because I get to talk about the history. And history is so important because none of us would be here if there weren't people who came before us, right? And I get excited talking about history. I love the history of the Coachella Valley. I've only lived here 32 years, but I consider that about half my life. So does that make me a local, I hope, Ben Olson? Does that make me a local now? And so I'm really excited to run through the 100-plus year history of agriculture in the Coachella Valley. Our industry has developed over the past century. And I'm going to jump into maybe some guesses for what the future is going to look like and share with you many of the wonderful achievements that people who came before us have accomplished. My hope is that you will understand why agriculture is so important to our community, to the greater domestic food supply of our nation, and to each of us who has to eat every day, right? We all have to eat. That's what we say about agriculture. If you eat food and you wear clothes, you are involved in agriculture. So let's proceed where it all started. Prior to 1900, the people farming here were Native Americans, and they were farming for their own consumption and using water from our underground aquifer. And the magic of that is the underground aquifer created pressure that pushed this water to the surface so they could easily farm and grow food for them and their families. But it wasn't easy, but they knew how to live off the land. Like many places in the United States, development happened once people could be transported here easily. And in 1876, probably the most important achievement that got us all here today was the Southern Pacific Railroad, right? We built the railroad through the summer, through the heat, that awful time, and it connected Los Angeles to Yuma, and lucky for us, they made Indio a fueling stop. This changed everything. People started coming to our valley in large numbers around 1900, and very early on, farmers realized this could be a great location for commercial farming. And for those of you who aren't in farming, we have two kinds. One, we grow food that we eat, and the other is we grow food for other people to eat, right? Until that point, about 90+% of Americans farmed because they had to. It's the only way you were going to get food. Today, because of modernization, as George said, 2% of us farm for everybody else. All right. The name Coachella was actually a printing error. Did you know that? In 1901, it was supposed to be Conchila. Am I saying that for all my Hispanic-speaking friends? Which was the name in Spanish for little shell, because you guys were sitting in an ancient lake bed. For millions of years, this area was covered in water, and still today, farmers find small shells in their soil from those ancient times. If you look at our beautiful hillside, you'll see the line, the water line from those ancient times, and we also benefit from the aquifer that was created from those ancient wet times. So those ancient lake beds are super important to us, but they stuck with Coachella probably because it was just too expensive to change it at that point, right? The first farmers used the artesian wells that the Native Americans used, and they drilled their own wells, but they soon realized very quickly that they were going to need another water source. Also about this time, a USDA botanist named David Fairchild went to the Middle East. He went to Baghdad. He found date palms. He thought they might live here. He brought them back. It's as simple as that. And the date farmers often tell me that the date palms we have today are all the children of those original date palm trees, which is pretty miraculous. In 1949, the Coachella Canal was completed. That was monumental also after the railroad. It brought Colorado River water to the farmers, which allowed farming to flourish, and our Coachella Valley became an important part of our nation's food supply. But the early pioneers did one more significant thing. They knew that the Colorado River was going to bring a lot of salt into our valley and that our plants would not be able to grow unless we had an amazing water system, which is our underground tile drain system. And still today, people come here to learn about this system, and it is still a marvel that was created nearly 100 years ago. In 1902, the Coachella Valley Produce Association was organized, and the first rail cart of fruit was shipped. And in 1912, the Laughlin family, very famous family in this area, created Oasis Date Gardens and planted the first medjool dates. Infrastructure quickly followed: packing houses, ice plants, pre-cooling facilities. Our farmers have never stopped getting better, learning how to grow more with less resources, and surviving in good times and bad. And all of that development was supported by the people who did all the laborious hard work to get that done. So let's run through. In the 1920s, Route 99 was completed, connecting us to Los Angeles, which opened up a vast market for all of our products. But farming grew, and we saw that we were going to need another water source. The 40s, like I said, brought the Coachella Canal, making agriculture dependable. We had water we could count on, and our tile drain system was completed. At that time, also, local farming company Tudor Ranches was established, and the Keck family started growing dates. In the 1950s, we had an agricultural boom. Cotton, citrus, and grapes were planted extensively. Coachella Valley became one of the nation's winter salad bowl farming regions. This was also the time that something else happened. Golf courses. People started coming. They liked the weather here. They wanted to have vacation here. And we started to be recognized for not only agriculture, but also tourism. I mention this because unlike many other ag regions, our property values stay very high here. And we're also easier to develop, right? We've seen housing developments and modernization move towards agriculture because we get all of the snowbirds that want to come and spend time here. That's good and bad. Also during the 50s, local farming company Peter Rabbit Farms was established, and they just celebrated their 75th anniversary in the city of Coachella. In the late 60s and 70s brought the United Farm Workers labor movement to Coachella with protests and boycotts. And as a side note, in 1975, a group of women got together in Indio and decided they were going to form California Women for Agriculture, because many of them were not in agriculture, but they cared about agriculture in our valley. And this very week, we celebrate our 50th anniversary. So we're pretty proud of that. And I just want to say our founding president, Cherry Ishimatsu, who was part of a farming family, is 100 years old, and she's still alive today. In 1967, local farming company Anthony Vineyards was established. The 80s brought irrigation innovation with the use of drip and micro sprinkler systems. 49 miles of the canal were lined, and this saved 130,000 acre-feet of water annually for our valley's use. We saw large waves of immigration from Mexico. Also at that time, Ocean Mist Farms started farming in the Coachella Valley, and we planted the first mangoes. For those of you who don't know, we grow mangoes here in the Coachella Valley. In 1990s, cut and peeled baby carrot demand exploded. You know, they're not grown like that. They're long and skinny. We just cut them up. Date groves in the Western Valley were pulled out for housing developments, and fish farming was established. Local farming company Primetime Produce and North Shore Greenhouses were started. In the 2000s, by this time, 60% of farmers were using drip irrigation. We're really proud of that statistic. It has been much slower moving across the rest of the state. But here, we use only the most water-saving techniques. And the last 36 miles of the canal are lined, saving another 26,000 acre-feet. Agricultural production value reached $500 million in the 2000s. In 2015, we reached our goal of reducing farm water use by 7%, and every decade of the past 100 years has brought innovation. We grow more with less land, less water, and less pesticides. We take care of our soil, we cause less dust, and we get your food to the market more efficiently. Today, agriculture crop value hovers between 700 and 800 million, not counting all the other residual effects we have in the valley. The highest value of any farming region in Riverside County. Our top crops are dates, lemons, bell peppers, table grapes, carrots, artichokes, and many types of vegetables. We also grow something that we don't eat, turf grass, and you can find that on many of the major sports stadiums throughout the country. But there's been some changes. I want to make a note that there's about 40 farmers who are no longer farming in the Coachella Valley, mostly due to the inability to compete, the high cost of production, competition from foreign countries, and even from states neighboring our border of California make it really difficult for California farmers to compete. There are also at least a dozen crops we no longer grow, and not because we can't, but because we can't do it profitably. A crop that has experienced steady decline is table grapes, sadly. Coachella Valley is known for delicious, high-quality table grapes. They are one of the first summer fruits that people all over California and the country recognize in the grocery store. And we even developed the seedless grape right here in California. Grape farmers experienced their peak about 1999 with 10 million boxes, and this last summer, they shipped just a little over 2 million. Sometimes crops change because consumer preference changes. We once grew 1,000 acres of seeded tangerines, No one eats those anymore. You eat the halos and the cuties, right, that don't have seeds in them? Agriculture is always changing. We now have seedless watermelon, lettuce chopped up in a bag, artichokes that grow in the desert, and most recently, Albert gave me some brandy made with wine that's made locally. Another development has been the return of peaches and nectarines. When I moved here 30 years ago, these crops were being grown but disappeared, and now they're back, so this can be done. I also believe there's a lot of potential for our date. I feed them to kids every week during school farm tours, and there are lots of people across this country who've never experienced a date. Fortunately for farmers, people have to eat, and I think they prefer food grown right here in the USA. What can you do? Janelle wanted me to ask. It's simple. We need American consumers to pay attention to what they buy and choose California and US over imports. American farmers are regulated by a set of values. You want us to pay a fair wage, conserve resources, and grow safe, healthy foods. Simple, right? You can trust that Coachella, California, and US farmers follow regulations like no others around the world. If our domestic food supply is to survive, our customers have to be willing to pay the price it costs to maintain these values. Locally, city leaders can help us by working with us, like today, communicating positively about farming and its history in Coachella. Today's event is an example of this. Coachella is a proud community, and agriculture depends on many people who live here. Every farmer in this room, I can tell you, appreciates their employees, and we couldn't put food on your tables without them. Our workers never stopped during COVID. They work hard and proud every day for agriculture, and your farmers pay the highest wages of anybody in the world. I am a fourth-generation California farmer. I work for local farmers, and I'm married to one you're going to hear to later. Talk about having all your eggs in one basket, right? I love this industry, and I love this way of life. I believe in my heart that agriculture will survive. Farmers have proven their ability to adapt, endure, and thrive for over a century in Coachella. We need your support at City Hall and at the cash register in your grocery store. I thank you for inviting me here today. I want to say when I was driving in this morning, every time I pass through Coachella, I want to compliment your leaders because I think we all agree our city is looking better every day. And that investment really shows. So I hope you will take my story and share it with other people. I thank you for listening and for caring and taking your time to be here today. So thank you.
Again, thank you for all you do, Ellen. All right, so next we are going to have invite up a few gentlemen who have a history, much like Ellen being fourth generation. One of the very cool things I think about farming in this valley is there still are a lot of family farms. Much of California, much of the nation, there's been a consolidation in farming, and the family farms have gone away for various reasons, and large companies have bought them up. So here, I'd like to invite up, we can do one at a time or bring everybody? Okay, we're going to bring everybody up. Okay, very good. So first up, I'd like to invite John Gless, who is a fourth-generation citrus farmer, and he is also the vice chair and CEO of Bagdasarian Farms. I'd also like to invite up Adrian Zendejas, a second-generation farmer and president of Desert Mist Farms. Albert Keck, owner of Hadley Date Gardens, third-generation farmer. And Blaine Carrion, manager for Anthony Vineyards, also a third-generation farmer. And these gentlemen will be discussing their vision of ag through the generations as they've experienced it. John, if you'd go.
Sit down?
Yeah, sure.
Well, good morning. Thanks to the City of Coachella for having this. I think we had a good turnout. Let's see. Ellen, that's going to be a tough speech to follow. You know, I probably won't have as much energy as you, but I'll give it a try. So I'm John Gless, a fourth-generation citrus farmer. My family's been growing citrus across the state for a long time, mostly lemons, mandarins, grapefruit, and oranges. I spent more than 25 years working for that business, and today proud to be a part of Bagdasarian Farms, which was once a multi-generational company that's now owned by private equity here in the Coachella Valley. So what does ag mean, in my opinion? It's not just a job, it's a livelihood, right? It's our responsibility and our heritage. Here in the Valley, farming is more than just what we do, it's who we are. At Bagdasarian Farms, we employ over 500 people every year between farms, packing, harvest, and our office staff. So that's 500 families that depend on agriculture to make a living, right? Citrus farming has changed a lot over the years, but farmers have always found a way to adapt. Irrigation, for example, we went from flood to precision drip and micro sprinklers, which probably saved over half the amount of water. Fertilizer, every year we take leaf samples to monitor tree health and give the trees exactly what they need. Tree trimming, what used to be done by hand or not done at all is done by mechanical equipment, promoting growth to support larger and better quality fruit. Packaging, we've gone from simple hand packing to automated packing machines to improve efficiency, consistency, and quality. Food safety, we follow Primus Global Gap audits to meet top safety and quality standards. We've made huge strides in efficiency, but in today's world, efficiency just isn't enough. So the reality today, it's no secret farming is getting harder and harder. Costs keep climbing. Labor, water, fertilizer, energy, everything is costing more. Unfair competition. Imported fruits flood our markets at lower prices. Those growers don't have to follow the same labor, water, and safety regulations. And it's hard to compete with that when it's not the same playing field, right? So right now, American farmers are faced with higher standards, more inspections, and tighter rules and regulations. We're not asking for special treatment here, just fair. If we got to play by the rules, the imports should too. So new rules come faster than we can keep up. Each one means more paperwork, more inspections, more costs. And we support the regulations, but they must be practical. Sorry. Should have said something earlier. I'm not going to start over, but but there's no better steward of the land than a farmer. The truth is, each year it gets a little harder for small and mid-sized farms to make it. So what do we need? We're not asking for handouts. We're asking for a fair shot. A labor system that's reliable. The same standards that protect people and the environment without breaking the backs of people who grow the food. Without real change, the next generation might not have the chance to keep farming. And if that happens, our food will come from other countries, not from the hardworking families right here in our valley. Farmers are tough. We've always been problem solvers. But today's challenges, farm costs to regulations to trade, are bigger than any one ranch can tackle alone. So let's work together, farmers, community leaders, and policymakers to protect what makes this valley special, our farms, our people, and our way of life. Americans supporting Americans. Do we really want to depend on third world countries to feed the best country in the world? Thank you.
John. Next, we'll have Adrian Zendejas with Desert Mist Farms.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Adrian Zendejas. I'm going to talk about agriculture through the generations. I took a different path. I was born and raised in the east end of the Coachella Valley, where I attended Mecca School and Coachella Valley High. Agriculture has been a part of my life as long as I can remember. Some of my earliest memories are riding along with my grandfather, my dad, as they worked the fields, cutting hay, and baling hay. Those memories kind of got me where I'm at today. Growing up, we were considered a migrant family, which I didn't really know what it meant, but it was fun because we got to travel from down here up to Bakersfield. We lived in a labor camp, and for me, that was fun. And I didn't realize what it was. I just knew that to me, it was like going camping, during the summertime. We spent all our day in the fields. Those were real good memories for me. That kind of what got me to love agriculture. And it was one of those trips with my parents. We were coming back from Delano. My dad took a detour, went through Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and he said, if you're really interested and you care about ag and you want to work in it, you can study. And maybe not do the general labor that we do, but maybe get into some sort of management position. And it was right then and there that it really got me interested. I fell in love with the campus. I was fortunate enough to apply, get in, spent a couple years there in San Luis Obispo, got my degree in crop science. And through the connections of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and the ag community, I was able to secure several internships. I did some in the Central Valley. I did some here in the wintertime when I worked with Jeff Percy. In my wintertime, we kind of met at a hunting club one time, and things kind of came together when one of the owners of Ocean Mist Farms, Ed Boutonnet, I asked him for an opportunity for an internship. He said, call my guy down in the desert. I was from down here, so I did. Offered me a deal during the wintertime, so this is where I spent some of my time. I would also like to express my gratitude to the California Women for Ag. That organization awarded me a scholarship that helped me complete my education. So thank you. So through all my experience, I took a sabbatical. I lived in Salinas for about 9 years before Jeff actually brought me back down here in April of 2006. And I worked for Desert Mist Farms. It was a small operation that established around 1993, farming a few hundred acres. Today, we're cultivating about 4,000 acres. We're pretty much a year-round farming operation, pretty much from July, end of July when we're starting to transplant our crops through end of harvest in early July. We farm like what we consider 3 seasons. We also have a fall, about 350 acres, our winter, which is our toughest time of the year, about 2,400 acres. We go back to the spring, another 500-600 acres, and then we have what I call miscellaneous crops, where we're growing onions, herbs, carrots, here in the Coachella Valley. All that experience at Cal Poly in Salinas, I was able to gain that knowledge, come down here, and where I'm at today, managing a farm. And it's important to me because I grew up as a kid not realizing that the beautiful things that agriculture brings to you. It's a way of life. It's something that I wouldn't want to do anything else but this. There are things that we go through roller coasters, whether it's markets or just issues out in the field, weather. But I don't think it matters where you're working at, you're going to go through those. But I would rather do that out in the field where I'm at today, because if things go bad in the office, I can always get in my pickup truck, drive around. Like Jeff says, if things are going bad, drive to your best field. At the end of the day, she can be good. So I want to say thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Just one thing I'd like to mention, you'll probably heard from a couple people today, Adrian being one of them. Obviously, a great story of how you found your way here to working in agriculture. But people that work in agriculture, it really is a lifetime job. You kind of fall in love with it, and you tend to stick with the same companies for a long time. A lot of the times, I know that my family, we've got people that have been working for us for 20, 30, 40 years. I know that other farmers in this room can say the same thing. It really turns into a family out on the farm. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you, Adrian. All right, next up, Albert Keck.
Thank you, George, and Adrian and John. Good job. Those are great stories, great sharing. I didn't quite know how to frame a presentation, but what I did is, speaking of the generations, my grandparents started here in 1941, just prior to World War II, and I thought I'd just dig up a bunch of slides and go through basically our family's timeline here in the Valley. But I want to preface all that saying that what I'm about to share is not that unique in Coachella Valley agriculture. A lot of the farms that are here in Coachella have very similar stories, and it really is. It's a beautiful story about people when it comes down to it. And we're going to see some old photos, harken back to the old days. I'm gonna click, Jason. I'm gonna, yeah, it works. So I'll click through the slides and just try to be quick about it. But there's my grandfather. I never knew the man. He passed away before I was born. I'm named after him. You can see there, standing down below there by some date palms. That's him on that little cat. And there's my grandmother. So they moved to the Valley from LA. He was a refugee from Turkey with the Armenian genocide. She was born in Parlier to Armenian immigrants. So that side of my family is Armenian. I consider myself a third-generation farmer here in the Valley, but it was actually my great-grandfather owned a little date orchard. He bought it after my grandfather. I consider my grandfather starting the business. So, and there's my dad, John, below that sign, and that's his little sister, Kathy. That's in Indio, right across from the mall is where they planted that orchard. And it's a Cardenas supermarket now or something. It's that shed there, we still have that. It's on Madison and 111. And what's fascinating is it's surrounded by date palms. And a lot of, there's a lot of younger people here, but some of you might remember, but when I was young, Highway 111 was really lined by date orchards. And I actually, when I was in high school, I even drove a tractor out by Eisenhower Hospital because we leased a couple orchards out there, and there are still date palms being farmed way out there. And then Jaime Rocha, my grandfather rented the COD date orchard, which became COD, obviously. That used to be a date orchard, and then Jaime Rocha farmed it for many years. And so there's, that's all gone. And people lament, we talk about, Ellen made a great point about agriculture, and there's like this tension between development and farming and whatnot. And this valley, it was farmed all the way up 111, and that's all gone now. But there's vibrant agriculture here in the valley still, and there's technology. There's lands that were unfarmable before that are now being farmed because of drip irrigation technology and whatnot. So there is hope and optimism. That's that same property there in Indio. You'll notice there's a lot fewer date palms. That's because it was terrible to be a date farmer. So there was just no money in it. And I know my grandfather took him out, leased a sand dune in La Quinta, and let him dry out, and then he burned him like 5 years later or something. But he went into tomatoes and citrus. We have Brett Mannion farming that property now. He's got the vegetable stand there on the corner. That's again, that's the Indio Ranch. My dad and my older sister Melinda, I think that's around 1966. I probably wasn't born yet. There's my mom standing outside that packing house. She's the center gray dress. She's probably pregnant with me. And there's Chago and Teresa and Rosie. I remember Lencha. We grew up with these people. I know my employees' names. These farmers up here, there's similar stories all across the valley. and working decades with us. So Rosie, we lost her during COVID. She passed away. She had cancer. She passed away, but she worked until COVID stopped her. I wouldn't let her work, and our workers had to keep working. But I said, Rosie, a couple of our older ladies, I said, you have to stay home, and she never made it back. But she was probably approaching 60 years working with my family. She wouldn't quit. She was a dynamo. She and her husband Negro was a bracero. They made good money here in California, and they invested in Mexico, and they had properties down there. But just wonderful people. There's Rosie right there between my mom and me. Look how young my mom is. It's like I'm like a kid, but anyway, she's just a wonderful inspiration to all of us. Really hardworking, very positive. There wasn't a challenge she wouldn't meet, and she just energized everybody. But she represented the best of our, agricultural community. And she's not unique. I know that a dime a dozen out here, just wonderful people. There's Jose Perez. He was my dad's mentor. Taught my dad Spanish, actually. My dad was just a little kid bothering him, following him around in the fields. He was my grandfather's foreman. Jose Perez, he came from Jalisco. His children grew up to be, even leaders in the valley. I think Joe was a manager for Belk. So a lot of history down in the farther corner. It's like these are the 70s. You can see their styles. It's kind of cool. But that was Juan Lucan and Javier Martinez from San Luis in Mexicali. They started a big date orchard down there, Medjugorje. So that was, and then I'll just there's my dad with my boys. I always made it. There's the boys planting. They're bothering the offshoot crew planting a new orchard. I dug this one up. This is Federico Fernandez, bracero, palmero. This guy, he's a stud. Look how strong he is. He worked for my grandfather, my dad, and then I had the privilege, because he came back when he was retired. He said, hey, I want to keep working. And it's like, you're too old to work. He goes, I'll do anything. It's like, okay. I let him take care of a few offshoots in nursery when he was just on his own time. But he just wanted to work. And he raised a beautiful family. His daughter went to high school with me and went to Stanford with me. And she's married to Dr. Chris Flores. And Federico sent another one of his children went to Berkeley, one to UCLA. This is not a unique story. This is the American story, where immigrants come to this country, they see opportunity, and they contribute, and they succeed, and they pass on that legacy. So this is just a beautiful, beautiful man, beautiful family. Palmeros, okay, generations. We have. This is what a palmero used to look like. When we used to send them up the trees in ladders with all their gear, and they would hang down from the trees. It was crazy. But these ladders could be 50-something feet tall. That's what they used to work with, ladders. That's skill. And never lost a palmetto. And we put them up in platforms now. That helps. They still do some ladder work. That's my current crew. These guys are strong. They're motivated. They make money, and they work in our industry. There's part of our farm team and some of our supervisors. Marcos is there. Marcos is here with us. His dad's still in the palmetto crew. These guys, they're studs. I mean, how old's your dad? 65? Yeah, incredible. There's some of our gals on the grading plant. There's an older photo on the left side and newer photo on the right bottom. There's part of our thermal crew, more of our thermal crew. There's our admin team, my sister, and then my brother-in-law. They work with us too, and there they are. There's my nephew. He's back in there too. That's an older photo of me, obviously. And there's my parents with their grandkids and children. And then this was cool. This was taken recently. And there's me and my dad, who's still with us, thank God. My son Paul, who's here with us today, and then Paul's son. So there's 4 generations there. We're fortunate to be together still. But anyway, this story is not unique to Coachella Valley agriculture. We have people that work for us for decades. They establish homes here. Ellen shared that there's something special here in Coachella, and we need to advocate for that. We need our leaders to be aware of that. It is a battle for survival because the pressures in this global economy and this regulatory state we're in, it's just forcing companies to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the values that we all agree on are baked into the cost of production. And ironically, the consumers get a pass on paying for those costs with global trade. They say, well, we don't, Coachella dates are too expensive. We're going to go to North Africa. They're a lot cheaper. Of course they're a lot cheaper. They don't do what we do. So, but we are productive. We have great employees. And again, this is not a unique story. The Keck family is not a unique story. I see it all up and down the valley with these other companies. So thank you.
Albert, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing those photos and your family history. That was great. That was really great. Next up, we have Blaine Carrion, manager for Anthony Vineyards. Blaine?
Thanks, George. I'm here to talk today about table grapes in the Coachella Valley from my family's point of view, or our perspective. My grandfather came here in 1936 and leased a vineyard. He didn't plant it. He leased a vineyard in La Quinta below Coral Mountain. And I think back on that, when I think about that sometimes, it amazes me that he was living in Weed Patch, California, just right outside of Bakersfield. And he was farming this property here in La Quinta, California. And if I don't have my cell phone for 5 minutes, I'm freaked out, right? So here's somebody farming a piece of property 360 miles away from where he lives. Probably took him 9 hours to get here. And he's got somebody irrigating and somebody dusting it, and he doesn't have any contact with him. I mean, it's just amazing what they were able to do back in the day. And if we don't have total control and on the internet and communication, it's very difficult for us. Eventually, he relocated his family here and was leasing and buying property. My father joined him in 1949 or 1950 after the occupation of Japan. He was in the occupation of Japan. And the family grew, and we had a packing house in Coachella. The slab is still there. It's a different building now, off of 6th Street. My grandfather passed away in 1967 when I was 11. So I did get to grow up around him and see him, and he was a very different type of person. I saw pictures of Albert's family, very distinguished, always with a tie and a jacket on, and it's very, or a button-down shirt, and we're sitting here looking like slobs, It was a very interesting time. The table grape industry peaked out. Well, let's back up. The table grape industry had a very rough patch during the boycott years, obviously, 67, 68. Most of the growers signed contracts 68 to 70 with the UFW. Eventually, most of those contracts ended up being over to the Teamsters outside of Steinberg, I believe, was the only one that stayed with the UFW. And the industry started to finally recover after the boycott years because it was a very tough time. It was a very difficult time to sell table grapes. But our peak production was in 1998, which was 12 million boxes. And our peak acreage was in 89, which was 20,000 acres. And if you look at it now, we're at 2,800, maybe 3,000. And so it's definitely shrunk. I look at these labels behind me, and there's really only 2 labels that are still in production, which is George's label and Anthony Vineyards. The rest of them, all these families, the Mordick family, Blas Rivera, Oscar Ortega, Milton Karahadian, all these families are gone. Some of those acres are still in table grapes. A lot of them went into citrus and now are in vegetables, which seems to be dominating here right now. So it's a lot of stories like Albert's talking about. A lot of families have been here and gone. Freddie Altman, Larson family, yeah. So it's just been a lot of major changes. But one of the biggest changes for the valley in growing table grapes and citrus, for that matter, was the implementation of drip irrigation. It opened up so many acres in this valley. Everything had to be on low land so we could flood it. And when drip irrigation came by, it opened up all these slopes to permanent crops mainly. Vegetable guys still have a little problem with the rocks, but I'm sure they'll get through it one day. And for table grapes, what's made us or allowed us to survive, as you can see with the shrinking of the industry, and it's been mainly because of imports. Mexico, when we were when we hit 12 million boxes, Mexico was at about 4.8 million. All right, Arizona was 800,000 at the time. Going back even further in time, in 1985, Mexico was 2.4 million, Arizona was 2 million, and we are 8.2 million. Well, now the whole thing is flipped. Mexico's 24 million, we're 2 million. The issue with Mexico, though, is with all the planting they've done, they haven't expanded their market. Still, 90% of their product comes here. Whereas California table grapes, 40% of it goes out of the country. We export it. And Mexico's just not interested in finding a different export market besides the United States. 1 minute. So the future for the table grape industry is new varieties, obviously. We used to produce, I was going back in some of my father's papers after he passed away 4 years ago, and they're talking about producing 285 boxes an acre. Now we're producing well over 1,000 with the new varieties. Just varieties that we had 5 years ago, you get 800 boxes an acre, you're dancing in the streets. And now we're well over 1,000. It's the only reason we've been able to survive. The issue is Mexico also has access to those same varieties. So it's going to be a constant fight. And we'll talk later about imports, I guess, in the next panel. But history of the valley and table grapes used to be a lot of families farming it. The industry shrunk. It's a natural progression, natural competition. Things happen. But we will survive with the new varieties, new trellis systems, and new techniques.
Thank you very much, Blaine. Just like to say one thing. I'm third generation, and I remember my grandfather was a migrant here, and my father grew up in the Ontario area, and they first bought some ground here in the Oasis area, just south of Valerie Jean, which would be Harrison and 66. And my dad used to tell me that in the wintertime, they would come down here, they would sleep in the car and wear socks on their hands because it was so cold. But yeah, it's like I said, a tale of what they did to get things started down here. Thank you, all of you. Thank you very much. All right. We have a special guest that is joining us today. We have Senator Ochoa Bowe would like to step up here and say a few words. Thank you, Senator.
I will grab it because I'm also on the petite side. Well, good morning, everyone. It is such an honor and a pleasure to be here today. My name is Rosalicia, Senator Rosalicia Ochoa Bowe. And I apologize, no pictures probably because my makeup is probably running. The stories this morning have been absolutely just heartwarming. And they're heartwarming for me, just to give you a little context. So I'm newly elected, well, it's been a year, elected senator to the newly redrawn Senate District 19, which encompasses both Riverside and San Bernardino County cities. I represent about 40 cities and communities, the high desert, low desert, the mountain communities. It's the third largest geographical district in the state of California. And in that, we also include Hemet and San Jacinto previously, and now Hemet. But it is an absolute, Supervisor Perez, a pleasure to see you today. But I just want to just thank Ms. Percy for inviting me this morning to learn more about the agricultural environment in our state. First of all, I want to say that you're very well represented in the Senate, at least, with Senator Daly. We had husband Daly, and now we have wife Daly there, and they're the most amazing and wonderful people. They are farm owners as well, family generations. I think now they're in the third or fourth generation of family owners serving in the state Senate, and they are great counsels for me and for the rest of the members to learn more about the industry and what's impacting as far as legislation goes. As you probably know, the state passes a lot of laws that impact the industry that doesn't allow it to compete with other countries that don't have the same standards that we do, whether it comes from the environment, the business, or the labor. And so those are some of the factors that really impact the industry in our state, as well as impacting it against other states that also do not have the same standards or expectations that are placed on your industry. I'm very keenly aware of that. But I also want to really quickly just mention the fact that I was really moved by the stories about the migrant workers and those generations that have followed through, because I'm a daughter of immigrant parents. My grandfather came to the U.S. Back in, we think it's the late 50s, early 60s, under the Bracero program. So he was a farmer. I mean, not a farmer. He came and picked fruits and vegetables. And so did my dad at the age of 16. And so I don't think they ever imagined that their granddaughter or their daughter would ever serve in the state legislature. So we talk about the American dream. This space is one that is conducive to achieving the American dream. So, having said that, I want you to know that you have a friend in the legislature. I understand the plight, and I'm so grateful to be here and listen to the stories and the challenges that you face. But advocacy is incredibly important. Sharing your stories with the other members of the legislature, whether it's in the Assembly or in the Senate, is incredibly important and powerful. Powerful. So I encourage you to continue the advocacy, the education that this provides, these venues, these spaces, with not just your local, but also at the state, the county, and also at the national level. So thank you so much for the opportunity to host this and for the opportunity to be here with you. I look forward to listening to more and learning more and taking that voice and your voice to Sacramento. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Those are beautiful words. Thank you so much. All right, so next on our list, as everybody's kind of referenced, our industry, like all industries, faces daily challenges, whether it's from the weather or from the marketplace or from our regulations that are ever changing. And we have another panel that I'd like to invite up here to discuss those challenges. First, Alex Sanchez, who is the Ranch Unit Director for Grimway Farms. Alex? And we have Andy Martinez, who's a captain at our Riverside County Sheriff's Department. Captain Martinez. Thank you. I'd like to welcome Blaine Carrion back up with Anthony Vineyards. Mike Way, President, Primetime International. Mike. Noel Perez, owner, AgSer, Farm Labor Contracting. Noel. And Juan Delara with Federated Insurance. Each of these gentlemen will be discussing a couple topics that are challenges in agriculture today. Alex and Captain Martinez will be discussing ag theft. Blaine will be discussing the impact of imports on agriculture in this valley. Mike will be talking about increased growing, harvesting, and shipping costs. Noel will be discussing regulations for labor and our labor situation here in the valley. And Juan will be discussing other regulations that are put on our industry as well. So, gentlemen, Alex, if you would please start off.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for having us. My name is Alex Sanchez. I represent Grimway Farms. We're also a member of Growing Coachella Valley and Riverside County Farm Bureau. And we grow carrots, potatoes, and 65 other organic crops here in the valley. We stretch from North Indio, 42 Madison, all the way to Salton Sea on Avenue 81. And so we have everything in this valley. We have water, we have a great community, great crops, but we also have a growing threat, and that's ag theft. And it affects our business every day, and it's been escalating every year. I'm gonna give you a trivia. How many green onions do you think there is in that field? Can somebody tell me? It's a quarter by a quarter mile there.
600.
There's 50 million green onions in that field. Oh my goodness. And that field is on Avenue 72 and Fillmore. Well, moving on to the next slide.
That looks like AI.
Yeah. So you'll be seeing some of my pictures. As Jeff says, go buy your best looking field. So that's some of my best looking fields over time. Yeah, so, our growing threat is ag theft, right? And it's been escalating the last couple of years, anywhere from diesel, irrigation components, copper wire, fertilizers, and crops that they're, stealing from us. And it's becoming where it's reoccurring often. It's become a really bad issue. I want to say since, the recent laws have changed and COVID's probably gone even worse. And next slide, please. I'm going to go through some of the items that we've been hit. George, can you? So this is just a list of our items, our farm only in the last year of what's been stolen. Diesel, almost $9,000 of diesel, irrigation parts, tires, UTVs, ATVs, fences, welders, so a total of $114,000 just in our farm itself, right? That's not including crops and whatever else is being stolen. And, I'm going to share, I talked to Anthony Vineyards, and they grow mangoes, dates, and lemons. They estimate this year they stole about 20,000 pounds of mangoes, 18,000 cartons, or 10,000 pounds of lemons, or dates, right? And so it's getting really out of hand, and it's affecting our bottom line. So here are some pictures of what's been stolen. Stole a main line of, at the middle of the night. We have a crop there growing, they stole it. Batteries, broke through our fence, diesel, the fence been stolen, and tires. And so what was this, how does this affect our farm, right? So it's not just the value of the item they stole. So for example, on the green onion field you saw earlier, it takes about 150 to 200 employees to harvest that crop on a daily basis. So they go out and steal a battery from that tractor. That crew's staying idle until they look for that battery for an hour, 2 hours. Now they stole actually $1,000. It's affected $1,000 to us, back to the farm, that we're not going to recuperate, right? Diesel. Diesel is a very common commodity they steal out there. They go and siphon out of the pumps of our tractors. And so now what we had to do to adapt to that, we've had to only fill what they're going to need for the day. Even though we have much more capacity, but we're having a guy go out and fill these items. We have over 40, 80 tractors to fill every day because now we can't keep our fuel in our equipment, right? So it's a disruption and it's operational efficiencies that we can't take advantage of. So some of the security measures we've had to do is, next. So we've had to build cages around our panels. We've had to put GPSs on top. There's 2 UTVs that got stolen, but they actually got, we knew where they were. They went in, the sheriff department went in and retrieved them. But now they've gotten smart. They know that we have GPS on them. They'll steal the implement or the UTV. They'll take the GPS down the street, take it out, and keep going with the ATV. So now we've had to put secondaries like air tags, so hopefully they can't find one or the other, right? Game cameras and reinforced our doors and seat train containers. So law enforcement capacity and gaps. So we're very lucky we have an ag liaison team with the sheriff department. We work very closely with us, and they've been great help. They're committed, they're very responsive, and but there's a problem. We have over 35,000 acres to be looked at, right? So it's a vast amount of ground to cover, and there's only so many of them, right? So that's a problem. It's not a matter of their commitment, it's a matter of coverage. And so what can be done? Obviously, more resources to them, more patrols, and maybe more technology, and also, change of laws, right? Keep the bad guys out of the streets. So, and in summary, Sheriff's doing a great job with the resources they have, and we thank them, and we work in conjunction with them, and we look forward to having a great partnership as we go and help solve this issue that affects our resources and affects our bottom line and our businesses. And here I leave you with a great field of cilantro out in Oasis area. Oh, you caught me in that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. I'd just like to add one thing to that. All of us in here, and that's not unique to farming, I know in other industries too, you'll go out, but for us, we'll go out to a pump station on Monday morning, or our irrigators will show up and they'll be like, oh, they stole copper, they pulled some wires, or they'll steal some copper. The people will steal copper and they will get $50 to $100 at a recycle place for copper. It costs the farmer anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 for that, to fix that, for $50, $75 of metal that they're getting. So it's wild, the swings in value. And also I'd like to thank Supervisor Perez. Looks like he stepped out. But up until just a few years ago, before we had this increased ag theft team, I believe there was one deputy or one sheriff for an 11-hour shift. So there wasn't exactly one deputy on a shift for 24 hours to cover the whole East Valley. And fortunately, the supervisor has got some funds, and I believe we have a 4-person team now. Awesome. All right. So I just wanted to thank him for that, even though he's stepped out. But Alex, great job. Next, we have Captain Andy Martinez from the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. Captain Martinez.
Thank you. Well, I don't know that I have much to say. He said that we're doing a great job already, so I believe it. Kind of sad that the supervisor stepped out. I did want to make a play or pitch for some additional funding because that team is doing fantastic, but they do need more bodies on that team. They're busy as they are already, but they could be busier. Before I start with a few things that I do want to say, I wanted to mention, and I was thinking about it back here, hearing everyone else speak, is a friend of mine took a trip to Saudi Arabia several years ago, and while she's there, she sent me a picture of a date container, and the date container said grown in Thermal, California. I was surprised to see that they make it that far. So as far as the ag community is concerned, I don't think that the regular public really understands how big the ag industry is and how far the reach is, because all of you truly do feed the world. I just heard a 98% figure, feed, or 2% feed the 98%, so I believe it, and seeing that picture now, it makes sense. So thank you all very much for what you do. And then on my side, again, my name is Captain Andy Martinez. I oversee the Sheriff's Thermal Station. My job is really to oversee the services that we provide to the area, to include the ag community. But my area is large, so I oversee everything east of Washington Street to Desert Center, from Imperial County to San Bernardino County. And within that, I have limited resources. He made a good point, and our staffing for many years, decades, hadn't changed up until recently. I think the supervisor said, hey, enough is enough. We need more staffing in the county. The county needs to be staffed like we do contract cities, and it needs to be efficient and effective. So we got additional money to staff up to 7 deputies per shift in the county, and that's just the thermal station, not considering any other station. So that's significant. It's a significant jump from 1 deputy in the south end of the county working the Mecca Thermal Oasis area. Last 2 years ago, sitting down talking to the Coachella Valley Community Services District team, I noticed that they were busy all the time dealing with ag crime. There was significant impacts. A lot of implements were being stolen. The diesel was being stolen. It was a problem. So I made a pitch to my executive team and said, hey, we need an ag team. This ag industry out here is so massive, and they're being hit every day. Fortunately, the sheriff was very supportive. I got the funding for 4 deputies and a sergeant pretty couldnly. And they're still not fully staffed. So I'm still short one deputy on that team. But they're doing a fantastic job. Couldn't be prouder. The one thing that we can do together, though, is communicate more often about what's happening within your areas or within your businesses or what you guys are seeing, so we understand better as to what's occurring and how we can better manage it. I know most of you, at least once in this past year, have maybe chosen not to call us to report something because either you thought it was too insignificant, didn't really matter, or nothing was really taken. But for us, all those things paint the bigger picture. It puts the pieces of a puzzle together and helps us understand. So while you might be a victim of one thing, but you chose not to report it, he might also be a victim of one thing and chose not to report it, but whoever did report it might not have all the information. So when you put it all together, it makes sense. And these deputies do a fantastic job. They know the community. They know who's out there. So with little pieces of information, we can start putting names to events and incidents and what we call an MO, or modus operandi, of how things are actually happening and where things are going. So with that, thank you all very much. I was hoping the supervisor would stay so we can grow this team a little bit more, but it might have to be a side phone call. But thank you all.
Thank you very much, Captain Martinez. You guys pulling straws to see who goes next?
Oh, we're waiting for you.
Well, on the list, we've got Blaine next.
I was asked by Janelle to talk about imports, so I will briefly talk about imports. As I said before, Mexico's up to 24 million. We're about 2 million some. This year, hopefully, it would be about 2.5 million because of the new varieties, picking more fruit. And the only way we've been able to survive is with the new varieties and because we are more efficient in the field and we're able to keep our costs down and compete. And also, we have buyers who will buy American. We've also been proactive. George and I went to Washington, D.C. in 2017, I believe. And that year when we were back there in August, we were still struggling to get through our crop, and there was Mexican produce on the East Coast, 25 cents, 50 cents a box, come and get them. All you want. Well, 25 cents a box didn't even cover a fifth of their box cost. Forget the transportation and their growing costs and everything else. We filed a dumping action back over 20-some years ago, and Lee will probably remember. And the investigation through that found that Mexico was at about 114%, I believe, and Chile at the time was like 140%. Problem was, with the current federal laws and guidelines and WTO laws on trade, is we had to represent over 50% of the industry, and we did not. We represented about 4% of the industry back in the day. And so it went nowhere. We paid for the investigation. It went through the process. And then I don't know if it was the ITC or the Commerce Department said, well, you don't qualify. Done. Gone. Mexican imports of table grapes through NAFTA and the USMCA were unaffected. There was never a tariff or much of any expenditure to get the product across. So just the implementation of those trade policies did not overwhelm us. What overwhelmed us was just them planting more and more product and finding out that, hey, we can export everything we grow into the United States, undercut the domestic producer, and we will have a foothold. And they got a foothold. To be honest with you, what we've been trying to do now is to get a price reference insurance policy where we could buy insurance like other crops do in the Midwest, but we could buy a insurance policy where if we can prove that they are dumping during our time frame, then that insurance would kick in and at least protect us to a certain reference price. Not really going anywhere yet, but that's really the only tools we have. So we're down to producing a better product than them, being more efficient, and never going to be back to where we were being 10 million boxes. Just not going to happen. It is what it is. It's unfortunate, but life goes on, right? Crops change, and that's where we are. What I think is, honestly, in our industry and everybody's industry up here, is more problematic is coming out of California and regulations. It seems that our electeds, and in some way I think term limits has a contributing factor to it, is when politicians get into Sacramento, they need to make a mark because they've chosen that as a profession, and they need to make a mark. And so legislation gets passed with no thought of what's going to happen with that legislation going forward. The overtime provision was a prime example.
Hey, you're stealing my thunder.
Oh, okay, well. I told Janelle. The overtime provision was a prime example. We're a very seasonal industry. The workforce at times has no work. There's a couple months where there's nothing going on. And then there is a busy time where they're putting in 48, 50 hours, sometimes 60 hours. And so that overtime was a way for them to compensate, or those extra hours were compensating for the times they weren't working. We told our electeds, if you do this, there's going to be virtually no overtime paid because we can't afford it. We're already under pressure from everything else, and we're just not going to do it. And that's what's turned out, and that's the reason they're talking about tax incentives for overtime. But it didn't help the irrigator that used to put in 80 hours and was making a house payment and car payments and putting kids through school, and he went from 80 hours to 40 hours. He lost 40 hours. And so there was no forethought to it, but people could notch their name on it and saying, I got this legislation passed. But to whose benefit? We have one SB 52 coming up now on plastics. Again, they've passed the legislation, but the physics of it, nobody has figured out where it's going to end up in 3 years from now. And so for me, I would like to see our state legislature pause, take a breath, let us catch up with your regulations. We can do it. We've always done it. We've always been able to do it, but just stop. I was giving testimony in an assembly committee about 3 years ago, and I had something I wanted to say, and our consultant said, oh, you can't say that, you can't say that. So I was very bland talk. The guy sitting next to me grew cattle, or a rancher, and he talked about those issues, about all these regulations and how it's just stifling him. He just can't make money. He's thinking about moving out of state. 30 minutes behind us came Karen Ross, Secretary of Ag, and all she did was sit up there and talk about all the grant money she can give to farmers to help them dig out of the hole that the legislature put them into. So we're taking your tax dollars to try to backfill a hole that the state legislature has dug for us. So they're saying, and he said, my sister no longer works in the company on the day-to-day basis. All she does is write grants. So all the small farms, they can't have a grant writer. You're just putting all these people out of business. And even when I was still farming my size, it was getting to the point I couldn't afford all the compliance measures I had. So you're ending up with these very, very large companies. I mean, Dodd-Frank that happened back in 2008, it stifled lending. You used to be able to go to a First National Bank and talk to John Westerfield or Alice Laurie and get a loan. If she thought you were going to be able to pay it back, you'd get a loan. Now, try to get a loan. It's going to be very difficult for young people to get into farming with the capital costs of land, equipment. It's just virtually impossible. It's going to be back to hedge funds who have the cash to do it. But, you know, the hedge funds, if it doesn't make money, they're gone. They don't fall in love with it. So that's, for me, the biggest problem we have. The imports, we'll deal with. We'll outcompete them. We'll outsell them at some point. But we can't outcompete the legislature. We just can't do it.
Well said.
Thank you very much, Blaine. Mike, do you have anything left to say now?
I'm not sure you want to hear what I have to say, but that's all right. I'm Mike Way. I'm CEO of a company called Primetime International. We're based now in La Quinta, California. We were in Coachella here for 30 years. We are a row crop, specialty crop company. What does that mean? I don't have trees in the ground. I don't have citrus. We don't have mangoes. We don't have grapes. We plant a crop for the spring, the fall, or the winter to be harvested and then disc and start all over again. We've been in the Valley since 1992, the prime time of the company. And in that time frame, the world has changed since 1992. When I first got here, we were 1,100 acres of corn. We had 1,200 acres of watermelons. We had all these different items here. What happened? Well, the labor cost in California has gone crazy, nuts, out of control. Yes. Ag in California is no longer essential, in my opinion. And I'm going to tell you how I feel. I'm not going to be all positive here because it's tough in California right now for agriculture. We have no support from the elected leaders running the state. We are second class anymore, and they don't understand that what ag does to these communities is raises everybody up. If you look at just in the Coachella Valley, for the families that built the Boys and Girls Clubs in Mecca, Indio, Coachella, all these ag guys here in town. I don't see Tesla, I don't see NVIDIA, we don't see these kind of people helping these local communities. So ag in California is key to the future of California. They don't understand that at this time, but they're going to see this soon. So what does it mean? What happens? How do we keep California agriculture in Coachella, in the valley? We're going to have to automate. There's not much else we can do at this time unless we figure out how to control the hourly wage that we're all paying on these employees. With that being said, the automation problem in California is huge. It's expensive. It's a tough thing to solve, and it's going to be years until it gets fixed completely for my row crops. For the tree guys, it could be a little bit different. But why has this become a problem in California? Rising costs, just raise your prices. Sell your stuff for more money. Well, the problem is that the consolidation of the retailers in the late teens and the food service in the late teens gave us less customers to sell to. So with that being said, our costs are double what they were, but my prices are up very, very little. And I can't do much. It's supply and demand. It's not a situation where if it costs me $40 to grow a box of peppers, I can get $40. I get what the market gives us. And it's a tough part of the business. People don't get it. Our margins aren't nearly what the legislatures thinks they are. They all think we can sit here and take all the costs and raise our price. It doesn't work like that. So that's the frustrating part of doing business in California. And I know Blaine talks about the imports. I'm here to tell you, I grow a lot of peppers in Mexico. And I do because I have to, because I can't grow them in California because of weather and the timing situation. But it's not only the imports that we have a problem. California is fighting other states. 75 miles down the road, Yuma, Arizona, they're paying $3 to $4 less an hour for people and no overtime. Okay? The overtime law that was passed, all it did is hurt our employees. It didn't hurt us, because we're going to do less with more. We're going to get better at what we do. But the employees are the ones who got hurt by this. And the legislature needs to understand this. They're not making 60, 70 hours a week work. They're getting 40 hours because that's all they're going to make. And people don't get that sometimes these legislatures make these decisions without the best of the employees, it's not the best for the employees. Let's leave it at that. I'll use an example of California compared to anywhere else in the state or the country. I farm today in South Carolina. I'm paying $7.95 an hour labor with no overtime. Here we're paying $16.95, $17, $20. I mean, we can't continue to compete with what's going on in California. It's got to change somewhere. The playing field has to be leveled somewhere down the road. I mean, we're going to continue to stay here as long as we can. And I tell you, the majority of the people in this room that farm here because they live here and they're from here. As Ellen said, most of the people have left town. There's 10 or 20 big farmers that have left Coachella because they can't compete. It's hard. It's a tough time to do business here. But the rest of us that live here, we're going to try and continue this as long as we can. But things are tough right now in California, and I mean, ag needs to be, what did I say here? Ag needs to be essential again in California. It really does. I mean, and all the communities in California are going to rely on this. So hopefully we'll get some support from our new governor, whoever that is in the future, and figure out how to get ag back in be essential. Thank you.
Mike said something. Hello? Anyway, Mike said something that was kind of interesting to me, talking about automation. It reminded me when I was in Sacramento, one of the things Karen Ross bragged about is the University of California was going to help with self-driving tractors. Well, everybody in the room knew that John Deere and New Holland and Kubota don't need help with how to make their tractors. They don't need the university to come up with self-driving. It already exists. But the interesting thing is if you look, in California, you cannot, it's by law, you cannot put a self-driving tractor in the field without an operator. So why would a farming company invest another $50,000 in a self-driving tractor and put a guy in the cab? You know, so that's what I'm getting at. I mean, we're crazy in California. We're nuts. Yeah.
Mike, and thank you, Blaine. Just something I want to build on something Mike said. We often say in the ag business, we're not price makers, we're price takers. We get paid what somebody will pay us for what we produce, not for the cost of what we produce, that's for sure. And there's a large misunderstanding by the general public of retail pricing in grocery stores. There is most often not a linear relationship from what the grower gets paid to what the product is sold in the store. We can sell a box of grapes for $1 a pound, and then you see in the store it's sold for $3.50 a pound. We can sell a box of grapes for $2 a pound, and then in the store it's sold for $2.25. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand retail math, algorithm, shelf space. It's a big secret, but oftentimes that is the case where the consumer will go into a grocery store and say, I'm paying this much for food, the farmer must be making a fortune. That's not the case. That's not what they paid. That's not what the retailer paid for that food. That's, I think, a real important point that people need to realize. I just wanted to add that in. Next up on our panel, we've got Noel Perez, owner of AgSir, farm labor contractor.
Good morning. So my name is Noel Perez. I'm a local farm labor contractor. We operate here in the Thermal region. We also operate in Oxnard, Bakersfield, and Fresno. So I get a little bit of every area and the different issues that arise in different counties, different areas. When Janelle reached out to me to talk about labor, I kind of asked her, well, what specific area do people want to know about labor? So I was kind of juggling some ideas around. As Mike said, and Adrian Zendejas, they grew up here in the Valley. When we talk about farm labor workers, we talk about two things that I've heard being discussed over and over is adaptation and opportunity, right? Two different sides of the spectrum. The adaptation is the processes and the problems that we've had to endure. I've been around the industry 6 years. That's how long my dad and I have been contractors now. I want to say back during the COVID time when Primetime had to shut down the packing house for a period of time, we got notice like 2 weeks beforehand, like, hey, you can't harvest with people 2 feet around you. Well, how do we do that? How do we pack fruit into a box when the packing tables you're standing next to people 2-3 feet away from you? It was an absurd request. As Blaine said, sometimes our state has policies in place that make it challenging. So what did we do? In less than 3 weeks, we fabricated farming tables to be able to comply with these regulations that were occurring on an everyday basis. We were having policies change every 2 weeks. So on these farming tables that we had to develop, they were like probably 30 grand a piece. And just on our side, as a contractor, Primetime deals with more contractors. Just on our side, we built 4 tables during that time at 30 grand each, just to be in the equation. Then that occurred once we kind of leveled off. We went back to norm for a certain period of time, but there was still problems along the way with labor. Because not only that, but at the time, there was a huge pull for needing more people, right? We were able to, like Blaine goes back to the hours. I was here when work hours were still 50 hours and then overtime. Well, now you shave hours back to 45 and then to 40. Well, what does that mean? You need more people. So our responsibility, our job is to provide more people for the amount of coverage that we need to do for the growers. So now, maybe an operation can pull off with 300 people. Well, now we need 500 people to accommodate for that growth and problems that continue to occur. So when we think of a field worker, and I've had people working with us, my dad more so because he's been in the industry for 40 years, that probably have 20 years working with them. Same stories like Blaine, Albert. Albert has a lot of people that I'm sure have been with him for a long time. Same thing with us. But they've been there, they've struggled, they've worked through it, right? The ag industry has brought in a lot of people close to me now, a lot of people that I've met. And people in the real estate industry, sometimes they'll come to me because they're buddies of mine, and they'll say, hey, I see on when I'm filing their paperwork that AgSir Contracting is who they work for. So it's a good feeling to see that people that we have are applying for homes or getting approved for homes, and that we're continuing to supply labor for the growers. The hiccup that we get sometimes is that my point that I want to make across today, the California Farm Foundation, they're here, they have a stand here out front. 2-3 years ago, they started really making a big push for training outside of farming, right? One thing that I feel that we lack as a whole is training for our farm workers. Sometimes they don't have the resources to come out into the city to get trained, and they need to be trained on site. So they came out to our office, I think it was last year, a year and a half ago. What is it that we can do for you guys as labor contractors, as farmers, as growers? And they were going around to a lot of the growers. And it took me a couple weeks to really think about and absorb what are the issues that we were dealing with. And I think we have a lot of people eager to learn, that want to be more involved in machinery, or maybe they want to go into accounting, separate industries, and they were able to piece together now like a training for forklift drivers and machine operators. Because if you drive around, those of you that are local, you drive around all the areas of Thermal and Mecca, most of the date trees are being operated with telehandlers with reach lifts. Those are machineries that are involved in the construction world, right, as we see them, and now they're being utilized in the date industry. Same machineries, same operations, but you'll see them on platforms now for the safety, obviously, of those trees that Albert showed you that are 50+ high, and now we're using telehandlers to get to those points with platforms. So we have people that want to learn to drive them, but we need to have resources available to them to show them how to operate these equipment. Same thing with tractors. Like Mike said, we're automating a lot of things now. Labor, we're cutting back, trying to do more with less. But what hurts me as a contractor is I get to know a lot of these people. And if we start cutting back on acreage, I know a lot of people that I would love to keep working and that rely on us as their contractors, as their employer to keep them working. But if certain areas or certain seasons start to get chopped away, well, what do I tell a person that wants to keep working? Sorry, I don't have work for you right now. And that's the conversation that occurs a little more frequently than it used to be. And I try to communicate the message to them. Hey, if you knew how to do this, I could probably keep you working a little longer. So more cross training is what my message that I wish a lot of more organizations like the California Farm Workers Foundation, if more of those entities were to be created to train or cross train our farm workers into other industries, then it'd be great. But it's just it's a tough time, like Mike said, in terms of that perspective. But and opportunities. When we think of farm workers, or even me, myself, I came from an educational background. I came from working at a school district 6 years ago until my dad tugged on me and said, hey, you're going to go to the ag industry next year. I was always around him. I have photos like Albert has, but I was never directly involved. I was always kind of on the outside, not having so much interest in the ag industry until 6 years ago, and now it became a passionate field for myself. But I don't think a lot of people are aware that there's a lot of positions in the ag industry that don't necessarily mean you're gonna have to be there shoveling or picking yourself. There's guys that I have out there and women that are almost part-time, pretty much full accountants in the field, because we need counts on certain things. There's food safety, there's security, there's packing houses, there's cooling, there with Ocean Mist, there's operators. There's a lot of positions in the ag industry that can get fulfilled by people that are working currently with us. So I'll leave you with that I just want to see a little more training or resources that ag workers can lean towards.
Thank you, Noel. That's an excellent point you made at the end, that farm workers aren't just out there harvesting, working with their hands, with shovels and digging ditches and whatnot. There's technical work. There is, it never ends really, especially in the modernization of farming. That's for sure. Next, to close out this wonderful panel, we've got Juan Delara to discuss more on regulations. A lot of people discussing regulations because there's so many of them.
Well, they already did my presentation, so I'm done. Juan Delara, I'm with Federated Insurance. Federated Insurance is based out of Owatonna, Minnesota, a large insurance company, been around since 1904. We have about 1,889 acres that we farm out here in the Oasis area, partnering with Anthony Vineyards, Ocean Mist, Desert Mist, and we also do a lot of direct farming. Let me begin with a quote from Thomas Jefferson. Agriculture is our wisest pursuit because it will in the end contribute most to real wealth, good morals, and happiness. So yes, indeed, the agricultural regulations in California are widely seen by farmers as a significant challenge and a primary factor in increasing operational cost, reducing profitability, and in some cases, causing farms to go out of business. These impacts stem from a variety of regulations across different areas. Key areas where regulations are affecting farmers include water management. Rules regarding water use and access are a primary concern. The Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, for example, limits farmers' access to groundwater, which is crucial during droughts when surface water is curtailed. This has led to land being fallowed and concerns that smaller farms, unable to adapt, will be forced to sell to larger operations. Labor costs and rules. Labor is a major cost driver. Minimum wage increases, a shrinking labor pool, and the complex, expensive H-2A visa program, which has nearly doubled in cost over the last decade, make finding and affording workers difficult. New laws restricting how employers can communicate with employees about unionization also pose challenges. Environmental pesticide and pesticide regulations. California has some of the most stringent environmental rules in the country. Compliance with pesticide application rules and other environmental constraints adds significant cost. Overall compliance burden. Farmers face thousands of regulations, as you heard, annually, impacting everything from food safety to operational procedures. This has forced some to make significant capital investments in new technology or reporting software. Here are some numbers, and some of these have already been mentioned. In 2024, California agriculture reached $61.5 billion in production value, the highest on record. But this figure paints an incomplete picture of an industry in immense strain. And I stole this from your slide. So thank you for that. Something else I stole. California grows many commodities, and these are the percentages that are grown in California for the U.S. Almonds, 100% here in California. Artichokes, 100%. Avocados, 95.5. Broccoli, 88% of the country's broccoli is grown here. Carrots, 91.4. Cauliflower, 80.3. Celery, 100%. Grapes, 95.5. Honeydews, 100%. Kiwi fruit, 100%. Walnuts, 100%. Lemons, 94.4. Lettuce, 81.4. My favorite, garlic, 100%. Food production is national security. California is the backbone of our country. California produces 63% of all U.S. grown fruits, vegetables, and tree nuts. Fruits, vegetables, and tree nuts represent 58% of all of California's agricultural production. But we are driving food production out of the state. In 1997, the total number of California farms was nearly 88,000. By 2022, this number had fallen to just over 63,000, a loss of 25,000 farms. This represents a decrease of 28% over 25 years. In 1997, the total number of California farm acres was 28.8 million. By 2022, this number had fallen to 24.2 million acres, a loss of 4.6 million acres of farmland. This represents a decrease of 16% over 25 years. Here are some factors leading to increased production costs over the last 25 years. Seed is up 253%. Fuel, 255.7%. Pesticides, 116.3%. Contract labor, 278.2%. Fertilizer, 316.8%. Hired labor, 183.2%. And electricity, 208.4%. Did I mention that I work for an insurance company? See how I didn't put insurance costs in there? Inflation from 1998 to 2023 was 117.5%. Rising production costs outpaced inflation by more than double in many categories. Major regulatory changes affecting California agriculture between 2006 and 2024, such as food safety, air quality, water quality, labor health and safety, and labor wages, caused a huge increase in production costs per acre. In 2006, as was mentioned before, production per acre was $109. $109. In 2024, cost per acre jumped to $1,600 per acre, a 1,366% increase. That's right. From 2006 to 2024, there were about 24 pieces of legislation that contributed greatly to regulatory costs. Starting in 2006 with AB 32, the Food Safety Modernization Act, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, AB 1522, AB 1513, AB 1343, SB 78, SB 778, SB 1, SB 553, to name a few. While advocates for these regulations point to environmental protection, animal welfare, and worker rights as necessary goals, farmers and their advocacy groups argue that the cumulative effect is a crisis that threatens livelihoods, the state's food supply, and the ability of family farms to continue operating. Thanks to organizations like the Farm Bureau, actively lobbying lawmakers and engaging in advocacy to address these concerns. So in the U.S., we are on track to lose 18.4 million acres of farmland by 2040. Rising costs, unpredictable weather events, and limited access to conservation programs are making it harder than ever for producers to stay profitable and build resilience. Let me close with this. As we look to the future, let us remember that agriculture is not just the work of farmers. It is the heartbeat of our communities, the foundation of our economy, and the promise of our survival. Every seed planted is a vote for tomorrow. Every harvest, a testament to resilience. So let us stand together to protect our land, honor our farmers, and ensure that the story of agriculture is one of growth, hope, and abundance for generations to come. Thank you. Today is Today is National Indian Pudding Day.
Thank you very much, Juan. Well said. At this point, we'd like to take a break. We've got a 10-minute break on the agenda, but maybe we'll cut it a little bit shorter since we're running a little bit long this morning. So if everybody can get back here in maybe 5-6 minutes, that'd be great. Thank you. Happy birthday. Hope you have a wonderful day. And a wonderful year for that matter. So we just finished up discussing the various challenges that face the ag industry. And now we have somebody to tell us, what are we going to do with those challenges? How do we handle them? Jeff Percy is the Vice President of Production for Ocean Mist Farms and the husband to Janelle Percy here, who helps run everything. So, Jeff, please.
Man, what a hard act to follow. Impressive. Challenges, opportunities, adjustments, passion for the business. Man, new generation guys, get up there and talk about your family, your passion. Adrian, thank you for all your great comments. And now I'm supposed to come up here with simple solutions. I'm glad it says every day, which it doesn't happen every day. First off, I'm going to talk to you about unintended consequences. I'm not a grape grower, never have been, and actually was glad when we could push them out and plant some vegetables. So when I first came here, there was 27,000 acres of grapes, okay, in this valley. There was no room for vegetables, and that was my job. I think we had 1,000 acres left down by the Salton Sea. It was salty and wouldn't grow anything. But the unintended consequences are this 27,000 acres of grapes that used to be here took probably $70 million out of the pocket of the farm worker in Coachella Valley, okay? Yeah, that's the hours times the workers times today's wages. Also, too, we want to have a low carbon footprint. The product that went to Mexico is now, I calculated out one day, about 30 million gallons of diesel more to get it from there to where it's going to go. Recently, in my business in vegetables, about 30,000 acres of produce have moved down to Mexico. Also, more carbon footprint, loss of jobs. So we farm here from right now until April, all different kinds of vegetables. And I'm going to talk to you today about how machinery can replace some of the people and make us survive, help us survive. There is no simple solutions. There are no everyday solutions. It's something, paradigm shifts happen and we adapt. $1.2 billion for County of Riverside. Ocean Mist puts about $35 million into the ground. What they don't tell you is last year we only got 30 million of that back. And 2 years ago we used to put 45 million in the ground. So here's our thoughts to how to change. Next. This is $1 million laser weeder, okay? Cameras, computers, still have a tractor, like maybe Blaine said, we still have to have a tractor, but you know, we have to compete. Arizona's got about a 40% advantage, 20% in Arizona, 75 miles away, and a 40% advantage in Mexico. And it's regulations, it's cost, it's labor. And here in about 6 years ago, with labor shortages and minimum wage going up in California, we had to decide how are we going to survive. So this machine looks at the crop, knows what it's going to protect, and zaps the weed with a laser beam. Okay, next. We've been transplanting about 40 or 50 million plants over the years, and we've replaced people with that. It usually takes 30 or 40 people to plant. We do 40 million transplants a year with this machine on the right. This is a celery transplanter, and then probably 8 people work on this machine, so it's cheaper and it's faster. So we're replacing people with machines every day. There's also a machine to plant through microwave peppers, to plant through plastic. This is a bell pepper bed with plastic. Next. For all the time we grow a lot of lettuce, it's planted 2 inches apart, and then we thin it out to 11 or 12 inches. And you can see on the picture on the right, we use a hoe, 30 or 40 men, people, farm workers out there. And you know, one thing I want to say too is I've done every one of these jobs by hand, know how hard it is, and appreciate our farm workers. They are, in our farm, like everybody's talked today, our #1 resource is people. 30 or 40 people hand weeding. You can see too, they scrape the crop, and that actually hurts the plant a little bit, or it takes out the roots a little bit. So next. So now we've replaced that 30 or 40 people with one machine. This is an auto thinner that you can see there the dye. We're selecting out the plants we want to take out. We get our spacing, and the ones in between are called keepers. And we also, too, are not disturbing the soil. We also, too, Adrian Desert Mist and all these farmers, they put fertilizer on there to kill the plants, and then we sprinkle it in. So we're getting 2 benefits. Next. This is the same principle with weeding. You can see there on the left, the cameras, the computers, the machine are finding the weeds that are in between the lettuce we want to keep and spraying them out. There's all different kinds of weeders right now. I was talking to some people out front there, and we are replacing people, but we're needing a whole new set of people with different skills. You know, computers, technology, you know, even welders. It's going to be all different. I can remember when Janelle used to be in food safety at Ocean Mist. She was part-time. Now we have a team of about 8 people. So, I mean, things are changing in our business daily. Next. I think somebody said, Mike did, you know, we are really weak on harvesting, but it's going to come. Up to the left, that's machine cutting romaine lettuce. It's in the process of still working, not perfected yet. One of the problems when it cuts it, in the store you have a retail ring where part of the bottom is still on the lettuce, where if you sever a leaf and don't know it, when it gets to the store, it'll die. So there's these little problems. And before I talk more about harvesting, I would like to say hand harvesting is the best quality. It always has been, whether it's sweet corn, lettuce, beans. It is the best quality done by people. The machine on the left is Brett Mannion harvesting beans, probably with 6 to 8 people, compared to 100 or 200 people that used to harvest string beans for us. That was kind of a neat way. In the old past, we'd start beans. We'd get all these people out here and we go, there's 200, we need 120. We take the best 120 people, you know, the hardest workers. That's just the way it was. This machine over to the right is a chili harvester. One man operates this machine, can do 5 to 10 acres per night. And you can see the little triangular things on there. He can change that, and he can harvest bell peppers, string beans, and chili peppers. A crew of 40 or 50 people take about $5,000 an acre to harvest chilies, just to pull them off the plant and put them in a bin. This guy can do it in one night for $1,000. I'm sorry, but that's where we're at. Albert and his family, great friends of ours. I was impressed when I went on a tour that they didn't have to climb the tree and pollinate it every day. They put the pollen with powder and blow it up there into the plant, and sure a lot less risky too. Next, farming efficiency. They talk about this all day long. The right crop, the right area, the right person, farmer, the right time of year, the right soil type, and the right field. Like people we've heard all day long, we have to have the lowest cost per unit. So we have to have the highest yield per acre nowadays. And all of these factors go in there. And unfortunately, I think our industry, the buyers, we're losing out on stellar quality and flavor. It's high population of product per acre. Next. Another tool, not really a mechanization or equipment, but the picture on the left is what we call big bed baby lettuces and spinach and weeds. We used to call them weeds. Now we pack them up and there's salads in your store ready to eat. The unique thing about that crop right there is it only takes like 35 to 40 days, where lettuce, if you grew it at the same time, harvested a big, would be almost double that time. So we can get more crops per acre, less cost per unit. Okay, sprinkled. We always talk about us being precision irrigators. This is a picture on the right. These are tensiometers that tell you how much soil moisture is in the ground that your plant can take up. All of this and everything I've talked about are just tools to help the farmer, that he decides every day what to use. There's other instruments that can go in the soil that can tell you the pH, the nitrogen, every content in there, ECs, and growers can adjust to put in the soil precisely exactly what you need, that we've heard all day long about drip irrigation. Next. Optimum planting. Anybody that does a vegetable schedule of Big Nature, I probably should have told you, Ocean Mist is 7,000 acres this year. We farm from here to Yuma, but we put time in on planting the crop on the exact day to know when it's going to harvest, and optimum planting is really important of scheduling. But one thing that's really happening too, we're starting here and learning, but things change. It used to be a few years ago, Coachella Valley had a higher yield in lettuce than Yuma, being on drip. We farm every square inch. Where nowadays, being in Yuma, they can plant more crop per acre, and boxes, 800 boxes to 1,200 boxes per acre increase, which is about a 25% increase. And now they make more boxes per acre than us. So things change every year. Adrian and Desert Mist and other growers are working on that here to get the highest density, best quality per acre. Bell peppers, we were one of the first ones to do 4-line, 80 inches. I know it's pretty technical, but we've added about 10,000 plants, or you can add 300 to 500 boxes per acre. Same quality. Next. Land use efficiency. Just to kind of throw this out, Alex was talking about how many onions he had out here in his field. This is spinach, high density. It can be harvested for babies or teenager or big spinach, you know, in the bag, to the bunch. This is about 3 million seeds per acre. And, you know, as far as efficiencies, we're always looking at every block. We actually rotate crops. If lettuce has a disease, we'll grow broccoli next year because it'll help with that disease. We do whatever we can to make the best crop, less disease, less weeds every year. We also farm from the Salton Sea where it's cold, all the way up to the canal where it's warm. So when it's hot, we start down low, and then we move up to the top of the canal where it doesn't freeze, which it hasn't in 7 or 8 years, and then we'll move back down towards the Salton Sea. Next. I like this picture because it's just cool. This is watermelons that we take a 16-ounce just drinking cup you can get at McDonald's, take a hot rod, push it down through there, and then we get wind protection. It keeps it warmer, frost protection, and it actually grows faster. Expensive in California to put it on and take it off, but a really simple tool. Next. Plant soil and health, we all look at that every year, whether we put compost or a cover crop, which we don't do much of. Typically, farmers have looked over the years of, holy moly, how much fertilizer's in the soil and how many pounds they put on. But nowadays, we're looking at microorganisms. And if you ever have a test come out there where a guy says you have 1 trillion of this, 2 trillion of this, and that, it's like, what the heck does that mean? Most farmers don't know a whole lot about fertilizer. Wait till they start this next level of soil microorganisms. Next. Alternate crops. This is basil with an automatic harvester that we're starting to grow. Many different crops. Next. I'll just go over this real quick. It really impressed me that last March we were burning some lemons, the old grower did, and in March and September we're growing artichokes in this field. So we do have to shift, whether it's dates, grapes, grapefruit, produce, we have to adapt to whatever it is. Next. Unfortunately, none of us like this. This is our home, this is where we love, but we are having to relocate at Ocean Mist. We have moved crops to Mexico. Again, it's cheaper. Bottom line, we have to compete. It's a matter of survivability. We have to compete. So we're in North Carolina, we're in Michigan, we're in Florida. Will we make it? I don't know. But Adrian and I both say we're going to make it here no matter what. Next. Buyers want to pull up to a cooler like we have in Coachella, and they want to be able to pick up everything. Whether it's broccoli, lettuce, value added, but one of our weaknesses, we don't process lettuce here. Somebody needs to put a lettuce plant in here so the trucks can come here and not have to go to Yuma and pick up processed lettuce. Next. Somebody sent me a photo the other day. We're starting to do roastable Brussels sprouts with seasoning. Where is it? Man, I don't know, but that's, it's another thing that we're doing is we outdo ourselves with trying to have the next thing, ready-to-eat products. We're starting to process more, but some of these stores, everything, we're so lucky as Americans, everything in the world is at our stores. Next. Just so the thought, you know, we're going to need computer people, technicians. Smart farming is in the future. It's happening. If you ever can go to a seminar somewhere, you can't believe the amount of smart machinery that's out here to help us farm better. Next. No matter what, the farmer is the best tool. He's going to look at the best tool of know exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it, compete, survive, and be the best at it. Boots in the field. Our boss used to say the best fertilizer is boots in the field. Next. We got a lot to think about, got a lot of changes. Been asked today what you guys can do for us. I think we've heard policy. Just because minimum wage goes up, your hamburger's twice as expensive. It doesn't mean that minimum wage help, that businesses can't compete. Our federal government and our state still taxes us when they increase that minimum wage, right? And then we can't compete. We're the one that put people to work and pay all those taxes. So policy, buy local, buy our brands. California does have the safest, most abundant, the most social and environmental responsible, and our own state won't buy our product for their institutions. That's a crime. We should brag about that and tell the world we do have the safest and we treat our people the best. Vision. I know one thing for sure. First, I'd like to thank, the city of Coachella, Growing Coachella Valley, Ellen and Janelle, who are amazing to advocates of agriculture. And I'll give you one vision that I know for sure. I help with the artichoke breeding program. We're going to have purple artichokes, bagged, ready-to-eat artichokes, artichokes for steaks, Josefa, her new plant breeder. This is what we're looking at for the future. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Angela Zepeda. I'm the Executive Director of Blue Zones Project, and coming up is my colleague, Job Huerta. He is our Organization and Wellbeing Lead, and Blue Zones Project is not just a sponsor, but we are actually helping Coachella become a healthier, happier community, and it's focused on making communities live better, longer. So today we just wanted to have a little bit of fun, and since we didn't provide raffle tickets, Hope came up with a great idea on how we can provide this healthy Blue Zones Kitchen cookbook to just get you excited about what it is and what it means, but don't get discouraged. It's not all about food. It's about building a built environment that nudges us to make healthier decisions. So we are working on people, places, and policies. So Hope, what do you think we should ask them to see who can win a Blue Zones Kitchen cookbook?
So, good morning, everyone. I've spoken to a few of you, and some of you are familiar with the original Blue Zone. So, this is going to be a first-come, first-served situation. Can anyone, and I'm just going to ask for raised hands, right? Can anyone name the original 5 Blue Zones? Raise your hand. You got, all right. So I heard Greece, Italy, Japan, and where there's a couple, there's 2 more missing, and he said Loma Linda, so 1 more. Monterey is a county that's being approved as a blue zone, but not technically an original blue zone yet. Loma Linda, he mentioned, yeah. There's just 1 more missing. London is not one of the original blue zones, but it's a good try. It's in South America, so Ecuador, close.
It starts with the letter N.
Wait, I heard it somewhere. No.
Yes.
Costa Rica. Who said that?
But he did name the most, so we'll get it.
Yeah, the gentleman over here did name the most, though, so. If you wouldn't mind just coming up over here and we'll take a quick pic, yeah?
We'll be waiting for our first meal from recipes from that cookbook manual. Just like to throw out something. Somebody mentioned, it's been discussed. There's many things that can be done. Jeff said opportunities that we have and policy, but as much as anything, it's about education. Jeff said it's unfortunate that, and as other panelists said, that the state of California gives us growers a lot of these regulations that we have to follow. But at the same time, the state of California does not support the growers in buying the produce from this state. And just a small story, a couple years ago, some growers in this valley, along with Assemblymember Garcia, put a bill into Sacramento that said that California institutions must purchase California produce when that produce is in season. So we had a meeting with a handful of school nutrition directors, right? 2 of them were from the Bay Area. And this was, I think, 21, COVID, super hot, crazy COVID. And they were talking about lettuce. And they said, well, we're not buying lettuce locally anymore because it's not available. Their idea of local was, I don't know, right around the Bay Area, I guess Salinas, Monterey County. They had no idea that down here in the Southern California deserts, we were disking up lettuce because there was no market for it. It's just education. People need to attend events like this and know what's going on. So thank you guys all for being here. Next, to continue the theme of buying local, we have Albert Keck.
Okay. We have basically a slide deck put together by the Date Commission, and Christy Knighting did most of the work. Thank you, Christy. It's an update. She updated it from when we had a few years back, and I just want to go through some of the slides, and I'll just share about the industry. But going back to the buying local, there are only the southwestern corner of the U.S., basically Coachella and then now Yuma, a little bit in Imperial Valley, a little bit in Blythe, but this is where dates are grown in North America. And so when you buy local, it's like, okay, they don't grow dates in Massachusetts. So, what dates, we do sell a good component of the crop as a fresh product, but there's also a processed product that goes into baked goods and energy bars and stuff like that. The thing with dates, unlike let's say a leaf lettuce or a table grape, is they have a longer shelf life, and so that allows them to be opened up to a lot of global competition from very far away, and so that's kind of the major challenge we're facing. So I think Blaine mentioned it, and Ellen obviously mentioned it, but the biggest challenge we're facing, because U.S. agricultural production keeps innovating. We have a wonderful just infrastructure and soils and resources with climate and water and whatnot, and then technology. And so, and again, the workforce. I think the American workforce is just the best in the world in agriculture, but we are exposed to global competition. And Ellen mentioned the crux of it is we have a set of values in this country that nearly all of us agree on, and those values come with a lot of cost. And then and our customers, which are consolidating, these huge retail giants out there that we all enjoy. We all go to Costco and Ralph's and Vons and whatnot, but they don't like their costs going up either. So they like the values, at least on the surface, but they don't like the costs that result from those values. And then we have this global economy that allows them to buy product from outside the U.S., which don't really, produce under that set of values. So that's our biggest challenge, and it's frustrating when they keep pushing their ideals, which result in costs, but they are shielding the consumers from those costs. And they're expecting, the farmers to bear the brunt of those costs. In the end, it's really not the farmers, it's the workers in the industry. And that's the hidden story. And that's where we need the advocacy and the partnership with our leaders here locally, because we are in, I hate the word existential, but we're in this battle for our community. And we're small we're inland communities, we're small communities. A lot of the drivers in politics are in the urban coast. They think 85 degrees and everybody should just stop doing what they're doing and go home and whatnot. It's like 85 degrees, we're just taking off our sweaters out here, and so that's an example where they drive the policy, and then we bear the brunt of it. I think Blaine may have mentioned or Juan. I think we're like 23 cents a kilowatt hour here in the eastern Coachella Valley. That's really cheap in California. I think the average power in California is now 30 cents a kilowatt hour. We have a farm in Arizona, and we have to pump water. We don't have canal delivery. We're paying 8 cents a kilowatt hour. And those of us in California don't have that perspective, don't know those things. And we are in a very hot climate here where we need air conditioning to get by. And so the coast, 30 cents a kilowatt, who cares? We turn on our AC for an hour of the day. Well, we're bearing the brunt of these misguided policies or these coastal-centric policies. So that's, let me run through the slide here. Is this on? Let me try it again. Jason, is this clicker working?
Yeah.
Is it working?
Yep.
Did it work?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay. So I'm going to skip through a lot of these slides because I want to get to some of the graphs. Deglet Nor, that was the historical variety here in the valley. It's about it's over 100 years now in the valley. Means date of light. Its origins are from northern Africa, and we're still competing against those supplies here in the Coachella Valley today. I think Ellen mentioned Fairchild. There was a Mandarin named after him. U.S. basically had a policy of bringing in crops to grow in this country. When this country was in a development stage, calories were hard to get, and so we had a food policy. It was like, bring it, let's make some crops, let's build dams, let's make canals, let's farm the desert. Now we have an ethic in this country in our time of abundance where we don't need any of that stuff. We can get 30 cent an hour kilowatt power, and it's like no big deal. It's like, but what it does is it reflects the abundance that we have, and also the taking for granted the essentials in life, including food. But back then, these guys traveled the globe and brought back crops, and most of the crops we eat in this country today are imported from other origins, and dates are one of them. We have actually 6 jobs in the field every year in the date orchards. It's a year-round industry, and so our employment is year-round. The industry employs probably about maybe 2,500 employees total, but the nature of that work is year-round income. So our workers are able to have a livelihood, and that's not uncommon in the Coachella Valley ag scene. There's different crops in the valley, so some families rotate through different crops through the seasons. A lot of the date industry, they work year-round in the dates. And then a lot of the households have complementary incomes from the hospitality side of the valley. So it's a unique little economy we have here going. And agriculture is obviously very important. Jobs in the field, in the orchards, we have dethorning. It's a calendar year cycle, dethorning. January, February, we follow by pollination in March and April. Done by hand generally. We do blow pollen up, but we still have to hand thin. We tie down the bunches that are pollinated. They grow into bunches, the flowers, and then you can see some of the bunches there. We tie them down in May and June. We bag in July and August, and then we harvest starting in September. We start with medjool. We're in Deglet harvest now. We should finish next month with Deglet harvest, rounding out the calendar year, and then we're back to the cycle in January again. So production, Deglet Nor, you can see this is, you know, we're back up into the 40 million pound range with Deglet Nor. That's what it was in the 1960s. And then it dropped, and you can see it went down. It was actually lower. It was actually about 20 million pounds at one point. Now it's climbing back up, which is a great story. And then we'll see, let me see, we got the Medules. The Medules, you can see the climb and production of the Medule variety. These are great stories. What they reflect is the Blue Zone book that was just out. So going back, calories were the thing in this country at one time when people didn't have calories, and now we got the opposite problem. And so we're going back to healthy eating. And that's good for the Coachella Valley because our agriculture is specialty crops. It's fruits and vegetables. And those are part of the good side of the diet with the Blue Zone idea and everything else. When I was a kid, it was have some Cheetos, you know, and Lucky Charms and shut up. And now, and even in college, it was like, you know, the things we ate back then. Now, the younger generations are into good eating. You know, and then as we get older, we're forced to get into good eating. You know, it's like I have no choice. I have to so the dates in particular are they fit right into that healthy diet lifestyle. And so we're experiencing good demand. You can see the volume numbers increasing. It's popular. What we're struggling with is the U.S. production is probably meeting, and this is a good and a bad story. It's not a bad story. But U.S. production is meeting about half of U.S. demand. And a lot of that's pricing power that the imports have. So we can increase production, and there's a profit incentive to increase production. But we would be producing a lot more if we didn't have the imports in there taking away market share. And they're taking away that market share by pricing power. And so the point is, how do we continue to compete in a market with a product that's rising in popularity? Well, we have to control costs. That's very hard to do in an old-fashioned industry like dates. You can see what Jeff Percy was sharing about the technology coming into the space of agriculture. And there is, I think Frank Ruiz mentioned AI. You know, what are we going to do about AI? Well, AI is going to be a big tool, obviously. When it comes to ag, there's more technology involved than people realize, but a lot of it's information, just data accumulation and analysis. Are we irrigating efficiently? Are we distributing that water efficiently? Can we produce? It's really cost per unit, and Jeff mentioned it. Cost per unit is how we compete, and it's getting tougher because the offshore producers are getting more sophisticated as well, and this technology isn't confined to our locality. So we need to compete. We need to get that cost per unit down. One simple way to look at it is, you know, Jeff can plant 4 rows of peppers on a bed instead of 3, and he can irrigate with the same amount of water, and it's a cost per unit savings. So you're more productive. Same thing applies to labor, and we need to make our labor more efficient, and that's where technology can come in. And we talked about the reach lift platforms in the date industry. Our guys the reality is those palmettos I showed you earlier, those guys are studs. They're more efficient than a machine with the ladder. But as we all know, nobody's raising their kids to be a palmetto anymore. And my palmettos are getting older. They are faster, but they're getting older. And I'm saying, well, I don't want these guys up in 50-foot trees anymore. I didn't want them when they were 25 years old. So that's a safety improvement, but it's also, it's the technologies coming in that's allowing for a career to be lengthened. And so the technology is coming into the space, and it's subtle sometimes, and sometimes it's in your face, but it is improving. And so the secret is, how do we keep our community vibrant economically? And that's competing, and that's being more productive. And so our labor is transforming in agriculture. Technology is helping it. The future of farming is not going to be the hoe, like Jeff was sharing. I don't know about palmettos. I mean, we need people in those trees, and that seems like a tough one that's going to take a while to, but how can we make them more productive, get that cost per unit down, give them a good living wage, because they command a good wage, but they deserve it too, and compete in the marketplace. So buy local. Yeah, we grow dates here. I would say extend that to buy at least California if you can, because we have the highest values as far as our ethics go, and buy US, if not. But for our friends that have to go offshore, I don't blame them. The ones that have to go to Peru or Mexico, they're not going to sell their product that's grown here because it's too expensive. And so we need to figure out a U.S. work policy, industrial policy, that helps jobs to thrive in this country while keeping, products at a high quality, the competitive marketplace intact still. But that's the difficulty. And that's where we ask our partnership with our local representatives, say, be careful what you promote, because you might be shutting down an industry. And the ag overtime one is one example. I think our workers, and Marcos, you know this, I think our irrigators and tractors, they probably lost $7,000 a year in income. And we lost productivity because of the overtime thing. And that was one thing it sounded good, but it was terrible. And we knew it would be terrible, but it sounded good. And so our policymakers are disconnected from what's going on locally. And so that's where we need to have a partnership. We need to have advocates that are, agriculture is part of the Coachella Valley's community, but it's not celebrated. But this event right here is showing that there's an awakening, and we need to celebrate it, we need to defend and advocate for it. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Albert. Well said. Our next speaker today will be Eric Besserell. Eric will discuss the economic impact of ag on the Coachella Valley. He is in the process of creating a report that should give us some definite numbers that show how important agriculture is in the Coachella Valley, so that we could have discussions based on firm data with the community and our policymakers. So, Eric, please.
Good morning. Is this still morning? Good morning, everybody. I drank way too much coffee this morning. My wife heard all about it. She's like, stop talking about ag. I came to party. I'm just kidding, but I'm going to talk about this. I actually came to talk about very serious information that you can find, and I'm going to plug in the Riverside County Farm Bureau. If you're not part of them, please join them. You get this amazing piece of information in the mail, and I couldn't tell you how beneficial this is to tell you, give you a pulse on the industry, fascinating industry. So let's go ahead and dive into it. So my name is Eric Besserell. I've lived here in the Coachella Valley going on 15 years, born and raised in Southern California. Parents were farm workers, blessed because of the industry to be able to provide us, their children, all educations. Actually, all of their kids, all three of us, work for some form of municipality or government. I've been in government for about 15 years. So just a little bit about me. My background is government. I have a master's in public administration. I'm currently in my doctoral program for public administration, and I'm hoping to emphasize my discussions throughout my career there and my studies there around agriculture. So you'll be seeing my face around for at least 3 to 4 more years. So just a little bit about me. My background is construction. After my parents got out of agriculture, my father, it's kind of a redundant story, but my father got into construction, which got me into construction. I love development. I just remember going around and being my dad's translator with all the building inspectors, and that really just fascinated me. And I was 13, happy to not be in school at the time, but really kind of connected me more and more to be just fascinated about government. So about the industry, you heard a lot of history. Ellen did a great job about the history. I won't do that, but here are some of the faces that represent a lot of the discussion that we're talking about here. And we'll go into more of the details. I tried to make this 200-300 page report into a 10 minutes, so I'm going to try to bust through this and bear with me. If you have any questions, you can always catch me, and I'll have my info at the end. So about the industry, starting it out, 179,000 acres or so are active farmland. There's definitely more than 40 commodities, but that's what we're seeing. But you're obviously seeing a lot more. You're hearing from individuals. I think, just small little ranches and farms up in Anza are even, producing 40, 50 different crops. So pretty phenomenal when you see what people can do. This gives you a good example. And I'm going to move this if I can. I walk around. So in here, you can see we talk about the district for Riverside County. Kind of phenomenal to see that, these little dots here, the map, everybody likes pictures. There's the map. That map actually includes not only farms, but also includes, ag adjacent, ag business, and ag industry clusters, which give you a good example that we stretch from one side to the other, and we do a pretty good job. Your industry does a great job at doing that. And a lot of that has to do with just nature itself. We are part of, in some form of inclusion, part of the Rainbow Gap, and because of our dry climate, we're able to produce amazing grapes in the Temecula Valley to provide wine for you all, which is just phenomenal, right? I say that our suffering is, providing their alcohol, so that's really good to know, right? Gives you a good example. I try to do my best to sort of summarize this again. Every district, though, plays a role. These are we talk about farm gate values, and we talk about the 1.5 billion. That's just the value of the crop. I mean, that doesn't take into account anything else. And I'll tell you one thing about development. If you base something off the value of the home, I guess that's not really fair when you talk about, well, I had to put an entire tract in and a road in and the sidewalks and, more electricity. So it's a deep discussion to have, which we'll do our best to do today. I think everyone before me did a great job talking about the industry. So history of the commissioner. So here in Riverside County, we've had a commissioner in place starting out with Robert Cardiff in 1909, and now we have Delia Jimenez, which amazing. When I talked to her about this, I let her know that, once you get me on board, I'm not going to get off of this topic because, I like to see things to the very, very, very end. So a lot has happened since then. One of the cool things about this was just researching all the amazing years and different things that happened. And one of the cool years that I thought I wanted to highlight was in 1982. You all saw a significant growth spurt. And it's beautiful to note, right? Because I think sometimes we look at values and numbers, and they don't really paint a good story of what's going on. A lot of times that profit margin, as you all know, by the time it gets to the farmer and even to the employee, it slims down. And so, when you do go to the store, you do have to try to shop local. Do your best to read the labels. Just take a little bit of time to see where this stuff is coming from. I think, you see a lot of the California grown pushing for that and really getting those labels out there. So this was one year that highlights significant growth here in the Riverside County. So kind of jumping into the report itself, it goes over a lot of things, starting from why the industry is what it is, how can we sort of look at the overarching economic footprint, what is workforce? How does that play a role? Environmental land use, policies, priorities. And with that, I had to do my own research, which included going to wineries. And a lot of amazing things happen at wineries. Oh, we don't have sound, but that's okay. This is me at Wilson Creek Winery, and I wanted to, you can see I ate the leaf, amazing, regenerative farming. And so with that, we have this, which is their Cabernet Sauvignon Block 9. It is their first regenerative farm batch of, and when I say they're really taking a leap here for the industry, they're kind of going thinking outside the box, and not everybody likes what they're doing. And you know what? You got to give it to them because they're trying their best to sort of bring innovative ideas. And I held these up, these Riverside County agriculture documents that I get every month. And I have dissected these so much. And so with that, I actually brought this because when I was talking to my wife, she's like, are you going to give the bottle away? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to give the bottle away. And I was trying to think of really, who I wanted to do this, who I wanted to hand this to. And really, I'm going to give it to Ellen Way. I think that she's done a really good job at really, and so thank you. She helped expedite my research. She's very knowledgeable. I really urge you to read this because it gives you a little bit of emotion, and you kind of need that. Sometimes you get disconnected from it. So a little bit about Wilson Creek. They're doing their best to bring in regenerative farming. All that brings in innovation. It brings in a new creative image of how we look at agriculture. Agriculture is sexy, and if you look at TikTok, people are making it sexy. So I love that, right? I love going on there. I like seeing the people farm in their own homes. It's a beautiful thing. At the end of the day, we spend a lot of money. When I went and got that bottle of wine, it costed me around $3,000. And my wife was really happy, so that's a good thing. But there's a method to the madness. It's a mixed method. Just kidding. For any economists out there. But what you have here is you have a very complex system of data and information that's fragmented. What do they say? What is it good if you're doing the right thing in the wrong system, right? It's like there's a lot of information out there, almost information overload. So what I had to do was actually go out there and talk to individuals and get their perspective on what they thought was important, because what I thought was important might not be important to them. This gentleman, although I don't think we have audio, but I will, I guess I'm going, my bad. I'm going way too fast here. There we go. Okay, whatever. The video doesn't work. It's okay. So the gentleman here, Mason, he is actually one of the tractor drivers on the tours at Wilson Creek Winery, but phenomenal amount of information this gentleman had to talk about CAL FIRE and the investments that they have done and why they feel that, to them, the most important part of their economy is CAL FIRE and the protection that they bring and the amount of money that it costs to get helicopters and aircraft out there. So if you go out to Wilson Creek, do the regenerative farm tour, talk to Mason. When you talk about, hey, we need to get more younger folks into ag, they're there. They're interested. They love it. You got to elevate them, though. You got to give them their place. And so, where did I get my information? Whole lot of people. And I'm sorry if I didn't put your logo up here. Maybe I couldn't find it, or I don't even know. But it's a lot of people. And this is just, when I mean data overload, I had to get a new computer because it was way too much information. But a lot of it has to do with, we talk about education. We talk about a mix of a lot of other facts that go into this. But in reality, what we have is an even more complex system. So it's not as simple as what we would all think. But what we do is we can see that with the data that we have, we can tell that there are indicators of what that footprint looks like and what that sort of transformation looks like. And we can we can play with those numbers. In this case, this scenario here at the very top, I used a RIMS2 type multiplier, which in simple terms, it just tells you that there's more to that story than what's at the forefront. And as we can see, from 179,000 acres, about 8,600 an acre is what their market value, 1.4. What that actually translates to, if you have a type 2, which is direct, indirect, and induced values, you're looking at closer to 5.8 billion. And that's actually, I'm going to, again, put a caveat on this. The RIMS2 is a very conservative way of looking at multiplying numbers. So when we look at the bottom, we have 361,000 available acres that are not being, not all being produced, but if they were being produced, this would likely be maybe your farm value. But again, that doesn't mean that the farmer makes more money. That just means that that's the money that's there. Let's just be clear about that. So, but why is it important to us? Well, agriculture is everywhere. And when we look at tourism economics, we can see that if we just focus on that, that's $1 billion. If we focus on just Temecula, well, we're not going to focus on because you saw the first part. If I told you that 995 million are coming out of this area for Riverside County, this district, then you're like, well, what about Temecula? Surprisingly, with the grapes that they do produce, they're able to make a phenomenal impact through tourism, creative ways that they're able to bring in an even stronger economy. But at the end, I'd be remiss to not say that I believe, even water serves as a form of commodity. And I got 1 minute left, so I will wrap this up. At the end, things are simple. Back in 1980, Robert Howey said, he noted here, in essence, we can basically multiply this by 3, our crop, and we can kind of get a sense of what the actual value is. And I did that just to kind of play with the numbers. And you can see with my median of rims, it's pretty accurate. It can range anywhere from $4 to $5 billion. But then you can start playing and indicating where this farm production actually plays a role, because out of the $1.5 billion that we've been hearing, also includes nursery stock, turf, so on and so forth. So with farm production that's edible, you can start implementing. So we remove some of that 328 million from nurseries. You got the 1.1 billion, and you can see that outside, and this impact is anywhere that the commodity actually lands. So whether it does get exported to another country and get used over there, at the end, you're seeing a much larger impact when it's outside of our boundaries. And multiple agencies do this. USDA has their own way of that they do it. And you can see from their perspective, they also have a significant impact. But one of the biggest things that I think the elephant in the room is that some of the biggest investors in agriculture are cities and counties that are purchasing so much landscaping that they're putting into their medians, they're building new roads, they're building new communities, parks. They are contributors into the investment of local agriculture. And this photo I took at the Home Depot off of Jackson, and creative ways that we're seeing that type of industry sort of show face. And I encourage you all that if you all have a farm, you have a business in ag, identify ways that you can show yourself and you can be at the forefront, because I think a lot of people would shop local if they knew what the brand was, and we keep repeating the name. If we bring that name up more and more, it won't go away. So ag tourism, regenerative farming, Mark's not here, but shout out to Mark and the things that he's doing at the Pack House. At the end, I want your feedback, and I need your feedback to really tell the full story. So I urge you all to go. I created a website so you can go on there and put your information. You can give me as much feedback as you want, and at the end, you could just call me if you would like. There's a difference between what the big farmers and the small farmers are facing, and we need to figure out ways to sort of address all of that. And there might be a creative way that we can all work together on that. But at the end, we can see that agriculture is not a legacy industry, but a very much active industry that, due to its historical nature, has been sort of placed in this box. And a lot of the industry names that we use don't carry the weight that they deserve. So another way that you can contribute is the Riverside County is actually doing a comprehensive economic development strategy, and guess what? In there, they have ag mixed into all of it. And I encourage all of you, if you take 5 minutes, go on there, you can give your feedback as to what you believe is an important industry here in the Coachella Valley. So with that, I've realized that there's too much info. So doing my best to sort of capture all this and take this to would be the next level. And right now I'm in the process, it's in beta mode, but you can go on the website and you can actually play with this. And what I'm doing is sort of dropping data so that you all can make smart decisions, because the last thing I would want to do is not provide something of value. A stagnant report wasn't going to do that. So again, here's my info. Would love to hear from you. If you want to chat, there's my cell phone. Share it. Just don't call me at 2 a.m. and don't call me for bail money, but you can call me. And again, I appreciate your time and thank you sorry for going over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. One thing I'd like to mention, Eric had the California grown license plate symbol that you'll see on a lot of your produce if you buy from California, the old blue and yellow license plate. California grown, that license plate program was actually developed, started here in the Coachella Valley by Coachella Valley table grape growers. That's where it started. I would like to, pardon me, Ellen? Oh, very good. I'd like to thank all the speakers that we had today from all the industries. Great job, everybody. And our audience, thank you for your patience. And at this time, we'd like to take questions. If anybody has any questions for anybody that was on the panel today. Sir, Assemblyman Gonzalez, Assemblymember Gonzalez.
I like the assembly. It's on. It's on. Eric, very informative. I appreciate all of this. It was like a real snapshot of what's going on here, and I think the story needs to be told a lot more. But I have a million questions. So my question to you is, the QR code that was there, is that the QR code that gets us this briefing, or what does that take us to? It takes us to the survey. So how do we get this PowerPoint that you created?
Yeah, we'll also have it on our YouTube channel, and all that information will be posted there. But yeah, I can certainly send you whatever information you'd like us to send.
Yeah, I think it's important for us as a community to be talking about the dollars associated with this. $5 billion, I saw up to $8 billion. That's huge. And as a state legislator, I need to be able to talk to that, to be able to say, this is why we need to protect this industry. And I mean, we need to sit down a little bit more, so that way I can get more of this story and more of the data to be able to advocate for not only Riverside County, but Imperial County, San Bernardino County. And as I sit on the Ag Committee and on water, these are huge data points that I need to be fed. So thank you for that.
To that point, I found it interesting that the state of California does its best work to keep the film and TV industry in the state and not leaving the state. But agriculture is a much larger economic driver than the film and TV industry, but nobody's trying to keep us into the state. It's actually they're trying to kick us out.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I talked to the author of that particular bill, and we are writing a bill that will, it's the ag side of it now. I said, if you're willing to take care of Hollywood, then we need to take care of agriculture. So that was yesterday I had that conversation, and we will be writing a bill that protects agriculture in the same vein that it protects Hollywood. So we'll see if they're, put their money where their mouth is and actually do the exact same thing, but for us. So
Great.
There you go.
Anybody else? Questions? We've been here a long time this morning. I appreciate everybody hanging out. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, I don't know who can answer this question, but I see that retail
the retail always get that chunk of the money. What we can do to go there or to reduce that part, because they get the money. We don't get the money, they get the money. So what we can do for that, for changing that?
I wish I had that answer. Does anybody in the room have a thought on that? I mean,
because we complain about that all the time, and I can see even in Mexico is the same thing. Mexico, always the retail gets all the money, and here is the same thing. So what we can do for changing that part?
I want to chime in on that. I think you heard about bringing in all those ag adjacent businesses that we're missing. We need to have a good inventory of what we have, what the larger producers need and could absorb and utilize, because this is big infrastructure. But we need that infrastructure because that infrastructure is going to drive to the stores. And so we got it. The closer we can close that gap and the easier it is, so it doesn't have the opportunity to leave, as what I've noticed is a trend that helps, is so bringing a lot of those ag adjacent businesses to our community where they are best suited is probably a better way to sort of streamline that to get to the grocery retailers. The other side is the grocery retailers have their own formulas that it really does take that public-private partnership where legislation could sort of play a role as well. But those are good points.
Yes, Margaret?
I just briefly want to suggest that we continue to encourage our schools in the Coachella Valley to educate our students in agriculture and the future of agriculture. These will be our leaders, and they will be the people that will take agriculture into the next century.
Thank you. That is a wonderful point. Do we have any other questions out there? Any raised hands?
I just want to say something really quick before we all leave. I just wanted to tell you that we have our wonderful gardens to go in the back, so be sure to take one. I just wanted to make that quick plug-in before, yeah, and the lemons. We also have lemon bags, so please be sure to grab one. But anyway, I just wanted to make a quick plug, so thank you.
Okay. If we don't have any more questions, then I'd like to introduce and bring up Stephanie Verhan with the City of Coachella Council member for some closing remarks. You know what to do.
Yeah. It's still morning. All right, well, thank you everybody for sticking around. I'm Councilwoman Stephanie Virgen with the City of Coachella, and it's a pleasure to be here with all of you today. We heard a lot of great points. I think that this event is a long time coming. I think it was important for us to have this today and continue to have it. But I just want to highlight a couple of things that I found were really important about the industry and the importance of ensuring that we continue to have these conversations, not just a one-time event, but that we continue to move this forward. But we heard from our Ag Commissioner's office regarding regulations and the impact that they make in the industry. We also heard about the history of agriculture in the Coachella Valley from Ellen Way. You did a phenomenal job in breaking that down throughout the conversation and what you were sharing. I just kept thinking someone has to write all of that down and put it somewhere where everybody can read it, because it was such a thorough just explanation of the history of agriculture in the Coachella Valley. So thank you for that. And then we also heard about the palmeros, and I really, really enjoyed the conversation that Mr. Keck shared about his family, the pictures, generations of folks in his family really being in the industry here in the city. And it was beautiful to see that, because it really shows you that it isn't just a one-time thing. It's something that stays within their family. And it's beautiful to be able to see how the industry continues to grow and how we should continue to have a lot more appreciation for that. He also shared, some of the palmeros that their families stay within the business. We have a father and son situation too. I mean, Marcos Granados, his father, a Palmero, and he's now a supervisor, I believe, within Hadley. And so that grows to show that, we have a lot of generations that stay within. And so it's beautiful to see that too. And then the other thing that I want to highlight too is something that Noel Perez shared, contractor, which I thought was amazing. And he said something about we have to continue to be innovative so that we can stay in the equation. That to me, that spoke volumes, because I know that even through COVID and whatever changes the state of California is going through, or even the nation as a whole, you continue to be innovative, to be part of the equation. And that says a lot. You do not say, I can't do this part, I'm gonna go ahead and move on, or I'm gonna try to do something else. You are becoming just as innovative as anyone, and you're doing such a phenomenal job in the industry, and that speaks volumes to me. I think that this event is gonna turn into something spectacular. It highlights a lot of great things. And one person came up to me earlier and said something that I agree with, is they bring so much to the farmers, the growers, they bring so much value to the city. They bring so much value to the industry and the Coachella Valley as a whole. And allowing them only half a day to talk about all of this great work is not enough. This has to be a day event or more. And I agree. I think that there is so much data that was shared, so many great points that were made today. And I think the conversation has to be longer. And one other thing that I want to touch on really briefly that was also kind of the topic that I felt throughout the conversation was the disconnect between our local elected officials, our state, federal, the disconnect with the policies that are being created, with the policies that are being shared, and the actual industry. And you are all the experts. We are not. I'm not gonna stand up here and say, I know everything there is to know about ag. That's not true. You are the experts. You live and breathe this industry every single day. And so I think it's important that we continue to have these conversations. Growing Coachella Valley has their monthly meetings. I want to put in the plug to invite you all to go to those meetings. It's a great opportunity. You get to hear what's going on with ag theft. You get to hear about how the team is growing or how they need more officers within that team. But it's a good opportunity for everyone to stay connected to the industry and know how can we help. We're not experts, but we can connect with you, and we do want to connect with you. We don't want this disconnect. We want to close the gap and make it smaller until it doesn't exist anymore. So I just want to say thank you all for being here. We appreciate you, we hear you, and we see you, and we want to continue to partner with all of you. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. I promise I'm almost done. I was told to share our Ag Vision tour. It's happening on Thursday, December 11th. I know there's flyers back there, so just join the interest list, make sure that you go with us, and then take some limones too. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, you guys made it to the end. Again, thank you very much. Just want to throw a few points out there. You know, we heard about challenges and opportunities, and the amazing thing about the farming community is we are built on resilience and adaptation. You know, we like to think that we're really good farmers and what we do really matters, but basically it's all weather dependent. The weather gives and it takes. And when it takes away, all of a sudden one day you show up and there's a problem that you didn't know you were going to have. And as a farmer, you got to figure that out. And sometimes there's no guidebook. You can't Google, what do I do here? You got to try, and sometimes you're there and you try and you really don't know if it's going to be good or bad, you got to make a decision and you got to go with it. So that's the lives that farmers live day to day. And we appreciate you guys being here, listening. Please advocate. Please look for labels. Go to the stores. Lots of times you go to the stores and they'll have packaging and it'll have the country of origin on it. Those grocery stores will turn that packaging over. They don't want you to pay attention to where you're buying your food from. They just want you to buy it. Be educated. Be smart. Know where your food is coming from. My nephew, he's 29, 30 years old. He doesn't know what it means to feel a piece of fruit, to smell it. This is how he looks at his fruit. Take this, deliver this tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Thank you very much. It's a generation of people that don't understand what it takes to put food on the table. To that point, like everybody said, take these transplants home. Plan them with your family. Plan them with your children. They'll enjoy it. Get them interested. Get them excited. And thank you. Also the lemons back there. Please take those home. As Stephanie said, there's the Ag Vision Tour on Thursday, December 11th. You can go to Growing Coachella Valley at AOL.com to join the interest list. We're also on Facebook. You can find us there. We have monthly meetings. Also, Desert Sandblasters, 4-H Club. This is county-wide. It's not just school dependent. Look for it. Get your kids involved. They are the future of the industry. I'd also like, again, to thank all of our speakers, all the guests that were in attendance on person and online, all of our sponsors. This could not be done without you. They were mentioned before, and they are listed on the flyers. And obviously a huge thanks to the City of Coachella for hosting this and being a partner and putting this on. Janelle Percy, Growing Coachella Valley Director, did a ton of work. Thank you, Janelle. And we hope to see you guys again next year. Thanks again.